If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
We are back. I'm Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, and tonight I am joined by Randy Nance and Jeff MD, who are both backstage for a couple minutes, and Philip Toppino from WOFT will be joining us at the top of the hour. The main topic that we'll be discussing tonight is the unfortunate likelihood that most people will die when assaulted, whether it be a standalone incident, being caught in a riot, being on the external terrorist strike, or all of the above. And unfortunately, this applies whether most people have a gun or not, because most Americans have no scenario training or stress inoculation, which makes them extremely vulnerable to going into condition black or not thinking clearly enough to sufficiently protect themselves and their families. However, before I bring Jeff and Randy on stage for the sit rep, for those of you who remember a couple months back, maybe 3 months back or so, I featured a company called Vizsla, V-I-S-Z-L-A, and they had this home run in silver. Prior to the silver stuff all going crazy the way it's been going, and they ended up with a major, I think it was actually like 3 major copper deposits towards Alaska, and a bunch of our Survival Dispatch Guardians signed up at 3 cents a share, or invested at 3 cents a share, and it very quickly went to over $1. So they made out like a bandit. So I'm not an investment guy. I'm not giving you investment advice. It's not in my wheelhouse. However, I do have a bunch of people in my Rolodex who are investment people. And generally speaking, I don't do things like promote gold, silver investments because it's not in my wheelhouse. But I do have some very trustworthy people that I lean on. So they brought to my attention a situation for America with regards to enriched uranium. Some pretty crazy numbers here. And we already know that we're relying on countries like China and elsewhere way more than we should, and way more than our comfort level is. So we go through somewhere around 50 million pounds of uranium a year, and we produce 1 million pounds a year. So we have a 98% dependency rate on other countries. And ironically enough, number one for uranium mining and enrichment is Russia. So this company Atomic was brought to my attention, and you can see the stock tickers and whatnot down here, atomicminerals.ca. There's a link down below as well. This gets really interesting. So the Trump admin used Section 232 to tie our national defense to energy requirements to enriched uranium. And by doing that, they were able to earmark $2.7 billion to ramp up uranium mining and enrichment here domestically so that we're not dependent on these foreign countries. So Colorado is like ground zero. It's the biggest uranium deposits we have that we know of, at least. There's some in Utah as well. There's some in northern states, Wyoming, if memory serves me right. So this company, Atomic, has 4 uranium projects that they own 100%. The $2.7 billion that was allocated, it's not like, oh, this is new spending. It's basically, this is a national, call it vulnerability, for lack of a better term. And we've got to backfill it as quick as possible. So these guys are perfectly positioned as far as, providing uranium from their, projects that they own. So with that being said, the price of uranium per pound just keeps going up, 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 and up, and it's going to keep going up even more. What's interesting, these guys at Atomic, just like the guys at Vizsla, have a track record of major home runs. They sold one of their projects for $654 million to another company. So they've got the money, they've got the leadership team, they've got the resources. So again, I'm not an investment guru, but when my guys come to me and say, hey, you need to take a look at this, I listen. And again, it's not very often I put this stuff on our channel, but Atomic Minerals, check them out. Link down below. I'll put some more information in a stock ticker here in just a minute. But before we do the stock ticker, let's do the conflicted question of the night. Jeff, Randy, good to see y'all. What's it been? It's been about 3 or 4 minutes, huh? Since we've seen each other last.
Something like that.
All right.
It's been a minute.
Times 3 or so. Yeah, so we're going to start with the conflicted question. So conflictedthegame.com. This is 14 card decks set in post-apocalyptic scenarios. Most of the questions have some element of morality, hence the name conflicted. I'm going to read this off. And at the end of the episode, Randy and Philip Toppino and I will answer the question. Jeff has to jet in about 53 minutes. So we won't get to hear his answer to this question. But here we go. Thad, a man who joined Morgan on his trip home, shot someone by mistake during an escape attempt. To take the victim back to his group would potentially threaten the safety of Morgan and Thad. To let the victim bleed to death because of Thad's mistake wouldn't be fair. If you were part of Thad and Morgan's group, how would you handle this situation? So there you go. There's an example of a conflicted question with some element of morality. All right, let's dive into tonight's sit rep for the next 52 minutes. The instability of the left is quite concerning. 31 seconds. We don't even have to hit play on this, and you can see the 1,000 milligram stare is already there. Wow, it's strong with this one.
The cartel is targeting ICE agents.
Look at that right. I'm sorry, but when I see this stuff, it makes me laugh. It shouldn't, but it does.
And gangs all across America are banding together to fight this bullshit. I fucking needed this good news today. You've got to understand, if the cartel and rival gangs coming together to fight you, you fucked up. And I am all for that shit. Go get them, boys.
Ooh.
Well, you have to realize when you start siding with actual criminals, you're
Yeah.
probably on the wrong side of things.
If all the criminals hate you, you're the good guy.
Right. I was just going to say something similar. Like, golly. So first audience poll, is she just 1,000 milligrams or over 1,000 milligrams? Put a 1 for 1,000, 2 for 2,000, 3 for 3,000. Let's see how strong we start out of the gate tonight with 1,000 milligram stare. And for those of you who are new to our podcast, we used to frequently say, like other people, oh, look at the SSRIs on that person, but it doesn't roll off the tongue very nicely. So we converted it to the 1,000 milligram stare. 1,000 milligrams of SSRIs. Somewhere around 80% of white women in our country between the ages of 20 and 50 are SSRI got tongue tied here, pill popping junkies. And it must suck to be in that age range to find a woman to date, by the way, because
Yeah.
Anyway, if you live near a port and hear screams, do something. Take charge.
We also have another major issue going on in our ports right now.
This is absolutely batshit insane, actually. I have to preface this a little bit. So there's a guy in Tennessee, a friend of mine, his name's Sean Taylor. Sean came to a bunch of us a couple years ago and laid out an incredible amount of evidence that took him 12 years to compile. He's a law enforcement officer, assistant chief of police in a small town in Tennessee. And it implicated some very big names in child and human sex trafficking. And the way that he stumbled across it was there's no policing, relatively speaking, on the Mississippi or any of the rivers that feed into the Mississippi, like the Tennessee River. And to this day, when you see these shipping, barges go up the Mississippi with containers on them, that's how they're smuggling these people into the country. And they were dropping them off. They probably still doing it in Tennessee, as far as I know, at these homes that were waterfront, but were relatively small, modest homes, say a 1,200 square foot ranch that in reality was 4,800 square feet because there were 3 levels of basements below it. So they would drop their captives off in the middle of the night. These houses, basically processing centers, then they take them through these underground tunnels to a mile or two away and load them into vans for the last mile of delivery. Keep in mind that the Mississippi River system, gives them access to approximately 60% of the lower 48. Just reconnected with Sean recently, and some very high profile attorneys have looked at his evidence. He's been beat to death by Channel 5 News in Nashvillistan. He's had politicians come after him. His home's been raided by the TBI. They've taken away stuff. I have copies of his evidence. I'm telling you that straight up. And a bunch of us have gone through it. And it's pretty dang brutal. And let me just give you one little tidbit here. He's got multiple evidence of homes that were sold for $200,000-$300,000, had a first mortgage put on them for $200,000-$300,000, and 6 months later had a $2 million second mortgage put on it. And then 6 months later, another $2 million mortgage put on top of it. And this is how they're laundering the money from the child and human sex trafficking. He's going to blow the doors off of this soon. And we're going to have him on Survival Dispatch News. But closing the southern border to people walking across the border hasn't even put a dent in child and sex trafficking. Listen to this video. This is just crazy. I'm going to start from the beginning. It's unreal.
We also have another major issue going on in our ports right now, and I just wanted to speak on it because I don't think a lot of people understand why they're striking. One of the major reasons I've been seeing coming out of videos and reports from people talking about it is that they get tired of hearing children screaming inside the containers. Yeah, you heard that right. The workers are striking, and one of the main reasons is they're tired of hearing humans being shipped over and screaming and banging on the inside of the shipping containers to get out. I understand we have a serious human trafficking issue in this country. I just did not think it was this bad. Never once did it cross my mind we need to be checking shipping containers for people. Can you imagine how long somebody's been inside of one of those, depending on how long they were waiting to dock? No heat, no air, nothing. I pray for the workers of the ports because I don't think they signed up to deal with people. Pretty sure they were just supposed to move cargo and goods. This is crazy, y'all.
Wow, it's just crazy stuff. Jeff, give me your thoughts on this. I mean, everybody's told us, all of our friends who are in law enforcement and specialize in this, that we are the world leader in child sex trafficking. This is just abhorrent.
Yeah, and the guy's got, he's right. How long it takes weeks for one of those containers to get over here. Now, even if you assume it was put on at the very last port of call, if those things are coming from Asia, that's weeks. And now they can be air conditioned. A lot of them, they have reefer units where they have, refrigerators that run or freezing units that run. I would hope for them, just refrigerating units. But food, water, yeah, they can put that on. But you can have a porta potty in that thing or something. It's going to be disgusting. And it's going to be, they cram them full of people. They can't breathe, they can't bathe, they can't do anything. And they probably have cut little vents in the side, but then you're sucking in fumes from inside the ships and everything else. I'm surprised anybody survives that.
Yeah, so am I, to be honest with you. Randy, I mean, this is really, really bad.
Well, we've seen this kind of stuff portrayed in movies, and everybody thought, it was just Hollywood, but you always had to wonder in the back of your mind. And for me, it was the first time I was on one of these episodes a year or two ago when Craig Sawman Sawyer came on and kind of backed the same exact story up and told us the same exact things, and that him and his organization had discovered that this was a problem that was on an industrial sized level, that these people were using taxpayer dollars to fund and operate this thing, and as you mentioned, any one of us you know, even if I needed it, there's no way a bank would ever sign off on me taking 3 mortgages out on this. Certainly when the last 2 would be far more than the whole property was even worth. And, you know, when you talk about they had to build stuff underneath and it's probably not just money laundering. I'm sure some of that absolutely is, but it takes a lot of money to build stuff underground and certainly then to have tunnels that lead off from there. So I would imagine that's where a lot of that money goes, but it's definitely an indication that, again, if our federal Bureau of Investigation or any of those intelligence agencies, and certainly several other agencies in the federal government were doing their job, that would easily be discovered. I mean, that's not even hiding it, so to speak, is it? Because you can always follow the money. That's what we always do, because at the end of the day, that's where you find all the answers.
Well, I can't remember if you guys were on when I had Victor Avila on or not, a couple years ago, 3 years ago, maybe. Victor Avila was one of the 2 DEA agents shot up in Mexico during the Fast and Furious stuff in 2012. His partner was Agent Zapata, who died in his arms. They were basically set up. They were told they had to go to this last minute meeting in southern Mexico, and they were stationed in Mexico City. And they took, I want to say it's Highway 58, the highway of death. And they got ambushed partway along the way, and like hundreds and hundreds of bullets sent their direction. It's a wonder that Victor even survived. But the first time I had Victor on SDN and we were discussing this, I said, are you telling me that this is a bigger problem than cocaine is? And he said, oh, yeah, absolutely. He said, because the cartels and the gangs like Tren de Aragua, they get recurring revenue out of this. And he ran the numbers, and Craig's done it too. Craig Sawman Sawyer, that basically the average tenure of one of these victims is 3 years. And they whore them out something like 15, 20 times a day, 7 days a week. And when you add it up, it's a massive amount of number that they're making off of these victims. And it's apparently it's not just more lucrative than cocaine, it's also a lot easier to deal in, which is just despicable, beyond despicable. Anyway,
yeah, I believe we were both on that show. I'm pretty sure Jeff was too. And I think the guy, you know, literally, that's what he said. You know, you sell cocaine, you sell it once,
yeah,
and it goes, but they sell these people over and over. And now it's become what I think he said the #1 commodity for these folks because of the amount of money it makes.
You're right. Yeah, and like I said, a 3-year tenure is because at 3 years they're so, you know, destroyed that
they're runt. They're runt. There's no way you couldn't be.
Yeah, they either commit suicide or the bad guys end up just killing them off. It's just unreal. But anyway, moving on to a little bit of insanity here, maybe a lot of insanity. Dr. Jebra Fauché says he looks like a mentally impaired, neurodivergent Wendy's logo. Somebody might have to try and decipher this for us. 13 seconds.
Better stop playing with my boy. You see, he gave me this chain, nigga. Talking about he ain't win, but he been had money, nigga. He signed me, boy. Gave me this chain, boy.
Ain't that right? Keep playing with him, we're gonna crash your ass, boy. Not playing, boy.
Yeah.
Crash.
Look.
This is a prank, right? I mean,
no.
This guy looks like some kind of movie cartoon character or something.
They're just a couple of stoners, is what it is.
That don't speak English.
Yeah, and look at those eyes, man. They're just lit.
Exactly. So moving on to the next piece from Insanity Central here. A Methodist church puts on a memorial service for Alex Pretty featuring a cringe overload song with these lyrics. I'm going to de-ice our neighborhood, invite our neighbors in. We're going to heal this world with love, tear down the fences. There is absolutely no way I can play a minute and 27 seconds, but check this insanity out.
De-ice our neighborhood. Invite our neighbors in. I'm gonna de-ice our neighborhood. Invite our neighbors in. We're gonna heal this world with love. Tear down the fences. Gonna tear down the...
I can't listen anymore.
I'm like, maybe she should have got the music pastor, the one that's over music, to come out and sing the song and let her just stick to whatever she preaches. But goodness.
I can't remember if there's any good shots up close here where we can do like a diagnosis of the stare, but I'm going with the.
Well, they had Alex Petty on the monitor behind us.
That's right.
Room, and she could de-ice the sidewalk, man.
Well, hold on. I think you misgendered this thing. I think that's a dude. I mean,
well, it could be.
It could be.
Well, it's
female.
If,
like a dude.
If y'all in the audience think this is a dude, put a 1 in the live chat. If you think it's just a really homely woman who can't sing, put a 2 in the live chat. Let's see what comes out of this. I think it's a 1. It could be a 3. Could be a Pat.
So why are all the other ones turned the other way? What's the?
Because she sucks so bad they can't even
don't want to be seen with it.
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't want to say it out loud.
Probably a whole bunch of reasons anyway. All right. I really think these social media warriors with moral superiority need to step on our properties to find out. I voted for President Trump 3 times and I hung a flag. Come over here, says Sassafras 84. 1 minute and 20 seconds.
It's going to really suck for the red hats when the shoe is on the other foot and people start going door to door asking if they voted for Trump in the last round or.
Look at this, just like totally no soul to speak of.
They still support MAGA. Oh, I'm sorry. Did that make you feel threatened? You think social punishment ain't a thing? You think everybody's ready to do all this again another 40, 50 years or however long it takes them? If you guys were to use any critical thinking skills and take a look around for 2 seconds, you would realize that numbers-wise, y'all are screwed. It wouldn't matter how much firepower y'all had. It would not matter how much you guys tried to. I mean, January 6th was a prime example of how crappy everything is and falling apart. Oh, that was just a test run. Yeah, the test run looked like shit. Your leaders couldn't even cover for their own ass correctly. The way they redacted those files makes sense, though. Y'all just love the patriarchy, and we all know how common weaponized incompetence is within patriarchy. How does it feel to know that the head orange toad basically has to be cleaned up after every about 10 minutes from just shitting himself constantly? That's not true. Look it up. I dare you. But we all know you're not going to do that because you're too scared. You guys are chicken shits. You guys won't research anything because you guys know you're going to find answers you're not going to like.
So here we go, Jeff, with the Saul Alinsky's rule to accuse the other side of what you're doing after 4 years of Biden shitting his pants. Now they're trying to say Trump is.
No.
I mean, that's a pretty good stare there.
As much as they have thrown at Trump and he has survived, they've tried to kill him twice, for Christ's sakes. I don't think he's going to be too worried about some little psycho brunette showing up on his doorstep. I wouldn't. If someone knocked on my door and said, "We're looking for people who voted for Trump. Did you vote for Trump?" I go, "You damn right I did. Me and my Smith & Wesson." Fight me. So I voted 3 times.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Oh my God, Randy, they're going to come door to door, find out who you voted for.
I was thinking as she's saying all that again, just like y'all have already mentioned, the sad part about it is these people, even when she's talking about critical thinking skills, when did you last use those? Quite some time ago, apparently. But my point is they project onto everybody else what they're doing. And this fool is like some of the others that still think they have the numbers. You can look at social media and see that is not the case anymore. And it is, I'm going with 20%. You got 20%. And, I think we probably could go to some of the actual studies the government did, like how many people will behave, right? That type of thing. Again, we talk about herd mentality. But I think that 80% has, at least 80% of this country realizes what's happening now. Now, whether we do something about it or not may be another story. But what I will say is if they do get back into power and they think they're going to turn around and do what this woman said, there'll be plenty of people like me that's just going to shoot them in the face when I open the door and they ask me if I voted for Trump, because we'll know at that point it's really on.
You don't think that's inciting violence, right?
Well, I think she is. I think she is inciting violence. She's telling people they're going to go door to door to go hunt out people that supported Trump. So that's inciting violence, because what do you need to go door to door for? And what are you going to do when they tell you yes? Like Jeff said, well, me and my Smith & Wesson did. What are you going to do at that point? But again, you know what she means by going door to door. We all know what she means.
I think you're being generous at 20%. And there's a reason for that. A couple weeks after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, somebody ran a poll that had millions of results, and it basically said, are you happy that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, yes or no? And the number for the yeses was 12%. So when you look at all these official polls, you know, Gallup, Ipsos, Reid and stuff, and you click through on them, they always oversample the Democrats. And again, Democrats, Republicans, two different sides of the same coin, but you can't believe any of these regular polls, period. So that 12% number is kind of where I pegged it. But moving on to the next one, we've seen this crazy woman before. This liberal woman says, I'm sick and tired of Trump supporters calling me a Karen. What's your advice to her? 27 seconds.
Okay, so I want to finally straighten something up. I'm sick and tired of Trump supporters calling me a Karen. You have no idea what that means. A Karen is privileged, entitled, microaggressive racism, anti-vax. Who does that sound like? The Trump administration, Trump followers? You're the Karens.
I gotta back this up here. There's 60. I'm just looking for the right one.
I thought she had the perfect definition for what a Karen is, except for the anti-vaxxer part.
Yeah, except that part. Well, she forgot the cat lady who buys kitty litter in bulk. But she goes, what do you got to do to not be called a Karen? Don't act like a Karen.
And don't own 50 cats.
Yeah.
So clearly from this video and previous ones where we've seen her, she has the 1,000 milligram stare. So we're going to do something different for the poll on this one. For those people in the audience who think her house reeks of cat piss, put a 1 in the live chat. And if you disagree and you think it doesn't, put a 2. But I got to tell you, you're probably on the wrong team if you pick number 2. But number 1, if you think her house reeks of cat piss. All right, next one up. The WEF are now focusing their attention on water resources, consumption, and limiting supply alongside potentially adding vaccines to our water sources. These unelected fucking Eurofag technocrats, god damn it, man. The shit that they pulled off and that they want to pull, and they don't even hide it. No. They just flat out say what they're going to do. This is Agenda 2030, by the way. That's these folks.
Again, like I said yesterday, whether it's AI or the media, you got to talk like you're a Democrat. You can say whatever you want, but at the moment they know you're a conservative and you say something out on that, boy, they're all over your ass on that shit.
Like a fat kid on a Sonic milkshake.
That's right.
And globally, did we solve that? Like, did we actually manage to vaccinate everyone in the world? No. So highlighting water as a global commons and what it means to work together and see it both out of that kind of global commons perspective, but also the self-interest perspective, because it does have that parallel. It's not only important, but it's also important because we haven't managed to solve those problems which had similar attributes. And water is something that people understand. You know, climate change is a bit abstract. Some people understand it really well. Some understand it a bit. Some just don't understand it. Water, every kid knows how important it is to have water. When you're playing football and you're thirsty, you need water. So there's also something about really getting citizen engagement around this and really, in some ways, experimenting with this notion of the common good. Can we actually deliver this time in ways that we have failed miserably? And global.
Oh, goodness.
Jeff, I'm going to let you unpack this one first.
Well, okay. First, if you control water, you control life. But I think the idea of using the water system to vaccinate everybody, see, this is how you understand how stupid they really are. 99% of the water that goes into a water system, in a municipal water system, isn't ingested. It's watering lawns, washing clothes, doing dishes, that kind of thing. So you would have to have such a high level of vaccine in the water that, you know, it would be virtually impossible. And on top of that, it doesn't matter about cooking, because once you would boil it, the vaccine would be destroyed when you boil the water, because the vaccine is an organic item. It's an organic molecule. So this is just them being stupid. And, you know, if they want to waste their time doing crap like that, okay. But what I really like about this is it really tells you who they are. The fact that they would give everybody a drug against their will it's mind-boggling. You know, there's other ways they could do it. Not water wouldn't be it, but they could put it in food. So they could put it in food supply and everything else. There's other ways they could, quote unquote, vaccinate you against your will. There's countries have done this with other things. You know, China, believe it or not, when China had the one-child policy and they wanted to get birth control to people, they put it in the glue on the back of postage stamps. So when you licked a postage stamp to put it on the letter, the person licking the stamp got birth control.
Wow.
Women were actually, because they wanted it, would actually lick, and they would get something in the mail. They would actually chew up and eat the stamp because they wanted the birth control, because they wanted, if they had more kids, they got punished. But everybody got mail, so that was a way to distribute birth control.
The first thought that came to me, Jeff, like yourself, was that it would be so diluted it wouldn't be effective. And then the second thought I had was they'll start putting it in bottled water and other drinks. They're already putting it in meats. And I don't care if this is a shameless plug or not, but our friends at carnivalt.com, no mRNA in any of their beef, chicken, or pork. It's another reason why Cindy and I are so big on their products. Randy, what do you think of this maniacal plan of theirs?
Well, the first thing I thought was what some people already put in the comment thread. I was like, is this even a woman? I think this is a guy, but I don't know. But regardless, this is what those elite wealthy think of us. And you're right, Dan, Jeff, they're more than happy to give us a drug against our will. They try to do it when they mandated them to begin with. And obviously we saw how upset they were because, again, these are the people that are the party of love, inclusion, acceptance, and just, hey, utopia. But the moment you didn't want to take a vaccine, they wanted to come hunt you down. They wanted to throw you in a FEMA camp. You didn't wear a mask, they wanted to ridicule you in public. And this is the people that try to say that they're the ones that care about people and the planet and the world. And we just know they don't. And, I'm like, but we also know that they're dumping all those heavy metals in the sky. Like yesterday, I sat here and watched two planes cross each other in Dallas, Texas, and both leaving a stream behind it. When I'm watching all these other civilian airlines leave and there's nothing coming out of their exhaust whatsoever. And then I see 3 or 4 other planes that are leaving something, but not quite as much. And all this was happening in about 10 minutes. No joke. And so, they're more than willing to dump heavy metals in the sky without permission and then to just blanket us all like that. They're more than willing to dump things in the water or however else they can diabolically come up with, forcing you to take this stuff.
Yeah, I want to thank Ultramaroon, who's one of our guardians and very active on our private guardian server. And so I had mentioned recently that this supplement here, nattokinase, had a really good proven track record of destroying the spike protein, which is a byproduct of the mRNA stuff. And the spike protein is what is the most harmful part of these mRNA things that go in your shoulder. I got to be careful what I say, or we'll get another strike. We get one more strike on our big YouTube channel, which is suppressed all the heck. But if we get one more strike, that one's done, like deplatform gone. So Ultramaroon posted this graph in the Guardians chat, and he takes it as well. And he said, look at the bioavailability of this particular brand. I have no affiliation with this company, to be honest with you. I hadn't even heard of them until Ultramaroon brought it up today, but Arthur Andrew Medical Natavina, which is pure nattokinase, 4,000 FUs. So most of the time they're like 2,500 FUs. Double strength, $29.99. So here's the crazy thing. Not only does this kill off the spike proteins, it also helps reverse things like atherosclerosis, plugged arteries, etc. I want to say the one study I read, they saw something like a 30% reduction in blockages from this product. So I take it. As you can see, if you scroll up here a bit, you'll see I just ordered it today on Ultramaroon's suggestion. So Ultramaroon, thank you for that piece of information. Appreciate it very much. Again, it's more bioavailable than some of the other ones are, and it was by quite a significant margin. So anyway, who wants to hit this thing with a 9-volt battery right under the nose there? If you want to hit this thing with a 9-volt battery under the nose, put a 1 in the live chat. Let's go. Buffalo says, WTF is that? I've never had at Sonic Drive-In or toxic sludge before, and now I have all the reason to never try it. It must alter your DNA like the Charlie 19 jab, 18 seconds.
I don't know how I know today is going to be a good day. I got my 44 ounces of toxic sludge to get me through. You need to do a banner?
Dude.
Ooh. Yeah, dude, for sure. Jeff, the retard bracelet that they wear in the nose, what does it mean when they have several of them like this?
They have more than one chronic mental illness.
Okay,
good. I think he probably has gender dysphoria. He's probably got some sort of thing requiring SSRIs. He's got all sorts of problems. You name it.
MSB 9021 wants to hit it with 36,000 volts.
That works.
You need a business card. You need a notary stamp.
Ooh-wee. This epidemic of mental illness is off.
Who hired this guy to be the face of their business? Who'd be out front, customer facing? I never would.
Well, somebody who has the DEI quotas.
Well, that's a white dude.
Yeah.
There are no DEI quotas for white dudes. Although you can't affect the tranny box.
That's right. He's a they or a she or a something.
It.
Yeah.
That's not even a pat. Like that goes way beyond a pat. Like that's next level. But wow. Again, the mental illness epidemic is just freaking insane. All right, next one up. Rob Finnerty just ripped the mask off the Islamic takeover of Europe. He said what most of the mainstream media is too afraid to touch. None of this happened by accident. 50 million Muslims now live in Europe. At the turn of the century, that number was less than 500,000 and more arriving every day. So 500,000 26 years ago, 50 million now. This demographic transformation was allowed, even welcomed by political elites who showed total indifference to their own native European populations. And as Finnerty explained, this is an attack on Western civilization itself. Finnerty, as the people who lead these countries try to do what Joe Biden tried to do here, Obama really, and that is fundamentally change the racial and ethnic makeup of a nation and make white Christians a minority in their own country. In England alone right now, 10 major cities, including London, now have Muslim mayors. In a nation that was built around the Church of England, Muslims are now running major cities across the country for the first time in history. And the English want us to believe that this is all normal. So this is not the Middle East. It's not East Minneapolis even. That is England. And when you see images like that, you can't help but ask anyone, a prime minister or a president or a king, deliberately try to destroy their own country. Why would you do that? Why is this being done? And because European leaders still celebrate our failed experiment in open borders, it failed here in the United States. And because they've chosen to stand with radical Muslims over their own people, it's because all of these reasons these countries are falling apart as the attack on Western civilization continues. Let's listen to a bit of this.
50 million Muslims now live in Europe. At the turn of the century, that number was less than 500,000, and more are arriving every day. As the people who lead these countries try to do what Joe Biden tried to do here, and that is fundamentally change the racial and ethnic makeup of a nation and make white Christians a minority in their own country. In England alone, right now, 10 major cities, including London, now have Muslim mayors in a nation that was built around the Church of England. Muslims are now running major cities across the country for the first time in history, and the English want us to believe that this is all normal.
The Muslim will come out and he will stand for truth and he will stand for justice. May Allah give us the ability to stand for the haqq.
So this is not the Middle East. It's not East Minneapolis even. That is England. And when you see images like that, you can't help but ask why anyone, a prime minister or a president or a king, would deliberately try to destroy their own country. Why would you do that? Why is this being done? And because European leaders still celebrate our failed experiment in open borders, it failed here in the United States, and because they've chosen to stand with radical Muslims over their own people, it's because of all of these reasons these countries are falling apart and failing as the attack on Western civilization continues.
Wow. Jeff, is Europe savable, or are they over the horizon now?
I'm wondering, well, physically, are they savable? Yeah, but do they have the will to save themselves? No. You know, if you're on fire, you can put the fire out. But if you're on fire and you are in denial, say, I'm not on fire, you're going to burn to death.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure Europe's lost. I don't think they can turn this around. But Randy, what do you think?
First, I was like, man, where's this guy work? Because he's fixing to get fired. But then I saw it was Newsmax, so maybe he won't. But yeah, you can't be talking the truth like that on the news anymore today. But you know what I think. I think Europe's gone, man. 50 million now, and they're still coming every day. We're just lucky that we closed that off. You know, somebody just mentioned earlier here just a couple of comments ago that we've got the largest foreign standing army. No, I think Europe does. We're not far behind them, but I think Europe has a much bigger foreign standing army in there now. And if we're not careful, we could get there right behind them. And but you know, again, as I said, the problem is how fast is this going to go? And that's really Europe's done, I do believe, and it's just a question of when and how fast. And I think we're about to watch this play out in real time.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. So next one up from Nick Sorter, just in, President Trump made very clear to UK PM Keir Starmer that if the UK attempts to evict the US from our strategic base on Diego Garcia, the US military will take the island by force. And one of my favorite guys, Senator John Kennedy. Listen to this one.
This is the Indian Ocean, Madam President, as you well know. One of the most important parts of the world. Here's China. Here's India. China's trying to dominate all of these sea lanes. Here in the middle of the Indian Ocean is a group of islands called the Chagos Islands. America has a military base, Diego Garcia. It is an extraordinarily important military base. One of the few in the world where our military can reload submarines, houses a number of Navy ships. Our military base there houses long-range bombers that we use to carry out missions around the world. We have to work hard every day to police our military base, not just the base itself, but the land, or rather the water surrounding it, because China knows how important this military base is. The United Nations is saying, United Kingdom, you bad people, give the Chagos Islands back. Nothing could stop it. Good Vice President Harris, but they're for it, all in an effort to curry favor with the people at the United Nations. who walk around with their NPR tote bags and their organic broccoli. Why on God's green would we do that? China, of course, is delighted because, number one, China's already started currying favor with Mauritius. Mauritius will now be in charge of the security of the Chagos Islands and our military base and the water surrounding it. President Trump, please pick up the phone and call the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and say, don't sign that treaty. Don't give away America's military base. If we object, they won't. If we don't say anything, they will.
Jeff, I mean, I love Trump's statement on this. If you try to, I will just take it by force.
We need to be much to take. We're already there. It's just basically saying we're in charge now. It's not going to be an invasion. We already have the guys there. You just say, okay, we're in charge. And then, Britain can, stomp around and bitch and moan, and the Chagos Islands can too. And we go, okay, that's nice. Not going to be anything. It's like telling a 3-year-old it's time to go to bed. And they can scream and stomp and everything else. It doesn't matter. Still time to go to bed.
Gotcha. I agree, by the way. I don't think they can unseat us. Randy?
Well, like he said, not unless we let them, right? That's the only way that happens. And even then, if we wanted to do something about it, I'm sure that we could, although I think we should deal with it the way Senator Kennedy just recommended.
Yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. All right, next one up. These leftist white women are batshit crazy, but wait for it. Talk tough and find out. 1 minute, 3 seconds. The 1,000 milligram stare is strong with this one.
What is this? Huh? What is this? Is this ice? Are you an ice piece of shit? Is that what you are? Are you some ice piece of shit? Is that what you are? Because you won't say your name? Is that what you are? You some ice piece of shit? Are you some ice garbage person? Is that what you are? You must be, or you would have said. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Are you some ice piece of shit? You some ice piece of shit? Huh? Some ice piece of shit? Is that what you are? Is that what you are? Is that what you are? Some ice piece of shit? Fucking ice.
Touched him. He should just slam her ass to the ground, whether he's ice or not.
Ice garbage?
That's wrong.
Is that what you are?
There you go.
So if you zoom in on this, you can see plenty of single strands of hair, which is there's none of the consumer available AIs will do that when they create fake videos. So this is a real video. Jeff, go ahead and say what you had to say, because it was hard to hear over the audio.
Well, I was just saying that the minute she laid a hand on him, he should have just slammed her ass to the ground. Her arrest was too easy. She should have had some discomfort as they put those cuffs on her. A lot more than that. You wanted to hear the word "ow" a lot.
Once again, in 1951, which was the peak, in 1951, we had over 550,000 inpatient beds in psychiatric care facilities. We now have less than 40,000, and this is one of the costs of doing so.
Well, when I was a kid in the South, you did that to a cop, you knew you had crossed the line. They'd show you.
Yeah, good old school police. Yeah. Randy?
Well, it was either that or I was waiting for, the couple we've seen lately, and all of a sudden the pepper spray comes out and gets them right in the face. That's what I was waiting for. But, her getting arrested was just fine. You know what? Because, again, you see how committed these people are, but she's an idiot. And she turned herself into a criminal because now she thinks it's okay to go harass a federal agent. And it's not. I think somebody asked a question earlier. I think it was Chris Boheme or whatever. that he had watched the Sean Ryan show, and apparently that guy's gone off a deep rabbit hole, and he wanted to know if we're the bad guys. So I don't know what Sean Ryan is saying on his show, because I don't watch it, honestly. But the reality is, people like him that have a big show that they are making a lot of money, they're doing things just for clicks. And if Sean Ryan thinks all of a sudden that we're the bad guys because of what ICE is doing, it's only because he's worried about not getting paid. And clearly he doesn't. It's no different. I didn't watch his either, but I also unfollowed some of Joe Rogan's stuff because of some of the stuff he said lately about it. And people like this got no business running their mouths, because guaranteed both of them probably have some sort of security detail because of their high profile. So I don't want to hear anything they have to say. The part of it, the reason I know we're on the right side is because of God, and we're on the side of the Bible and God. And that's how it's supposed to be, just how this country was formed. So we're not the bad guys by any stretch of the imagination. And then finally, I'll close with another little challenge of this. Joe Casnall says, Europe has been around 1,000 years. It will still be here. A bunch of conspiracy crazy old guys are not the authority. Well, Joe, I can promise you, you're not the subject matter expert either, or you wouldn't be running your suck like that. For one, we'll just put a little challenge out there. Let's give it a couple of more years and see where Europe is, and see how your little comment ages, and let's see how ours age. Because I promise you, just because Europe's been there for 1,000 years doesn't mean they're still going to be there. Because again, last time I checked, the only reason Europe is still there because we went and saved y'all's ass twice.
Well, one other thing too for old Joe. Hey, Joe, Egypt was a Christian country for 1,000 years. I'm sure it will be for the next 1,000. Oh, wait, it's not anymore. The landmass of Europe will be there. The countries and the culture will not.
Yeah, true story. So these days it's hard to tell. That could be a bot, could be an AI bot. It could be a paid agitator, or it could just be, your, mentally deficient keyboard, commando. But either way, I see Philip backstage. So I'm going to do two more here. One's real. Actually, they're both short. This one I had to play just for Randy. Woman demands veterans be publicly shamed and have their records wiped. 34 seconds.
So if you are a veteran and you come in my fucking comments and you talk about this man like he's doing good things for our country, you don't deserve the respect of this country. You deserve to have your records stripped and hung in the stocks, because you are a traitor. You're a traitor to your country, and you're a traitor to your oath. Your oath was to uphold the Constitution of the United States. It wasn't to suck some orange guy's micropene. Do you understand? So get the fuck off my page, because I hate nobody more than you. Disgusting.
Wow, this is like many milligrams of SSRIs here.
Again, what makes her the subject matter expert? Because I'll bet she's never served a day in the military herself. But here she's going to chastise veterans for telling her the truth.
Yeah, so last poll of the night for this. How many milligrams of SSRIs is this stare? Is it 1,000 milligram stare, 2,000, 3,000? Let's see your answers in the live chat. Jeff, you want to comment on this nutcase?
Well, her eyelids look droopy, so I think it's SSRIs combined with a lot of box wine. So yeah, you don't mix your drugs, folks. That she's the story that tells you, she's the warning. Don't mix SSRIs and cheap box white wine.
There you go. All right, last one, 34 seconds, and then we'll get into the main topic with Philip. This is Rex. He's patrolling the store with his current handler when he suddenly recognizes his very first one, breaks all protocol for the purest, most joyful tackle hug. Dogs are simply unmatched.
Fucking cool.
Cool.
Be on the lookout
That's too cool. Dogs are the best.
Isn't that fantastic? I don't know if you want to comment on that at all, Randy, or not, but
well, it was pretty cool. You know, dogs don't forget. You know what I mean? And you know what the other guy's thinking? Well, I hope if I ever have to hand him off, he acts this way when I come back around.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. Well, Jeff, we appreciate your time, and we're 4 minutes
Right.
in as
And
well.
to Alexandra, nothing wrong with box wine. Just don't mix it with SSRIs. I will drink a glass of box wine myself. Just don't mix your drugs. All right, guys. Good night.
Yeah, take care.
See you, Jeff.
All right, Mr. Philip Toppino, how are you?
Greetings and salutations.
How did your travels go today?
It went great. My daughter, she was in the Page and Messenger program up in Tallahassee, and got to see how the sausage is made. And we were up there lobbying for our school teacher safety appropriation, which we hope will pass this time.
Awesome. Good stuff. Philip, I can't remember if you've met Randy Nance or not. Have y'all?
No, we have not met.
So-
hey, Philip, how are you?
Hello, sir.
Yep.
So Philip, Randy's a longtime friend of mine back home in Texas. He's a combat wounded Green Beret, just salt of the earth. He's 100% our people. And let me get you up on the other stage here as well, Philip. All right, there we go. So Philip owns WOFT. You can check it out at WOFT.com, WOFT.com. But this is the premier scenario training facility in the entire country. And Philip and I, we have a mutual acquaintance who works at Prairie Fire, which is the old front site in Pahrump, Nevada. And it's an incredible facility. It's 500 acres, but it is a very, very different facility from a training perspective than what Philip has created at WOFT. So before we get into the whole, scenario training and specifics, Philip, I'm going to go ahead and put you full screen and give our audience the elevator story on WOFT, because we've got a whole bunch of new followers. Take it away.
Absolutely. My name is Philip Toppino. I'm the founder and director of WOFT. We have a 20-acre facility outside of Orlando, Florida, and we specialize in real-life scenario safety and instruction. I do not have a military or law enforcement background. I am a husband, and then I became a dad, and I wanted safety for my family when I wasn't with them. So I developed a learning experience based on a lot of travels. I did my first exit in real estate over about 20 years ago. I was able to travel the country and train with whoever I wanted. So you referenced Front Sight. I got my combat handgun master certification in 2017 from Front Sight. I've trained with many awesome patriots, like Randy. Our experience is around subject matter experts. So the next time you come out, Chris, you'll meet Rooster. He is former CIA. He's my director of training. We have Eben, who's another call sign, 2-star, 2 Purple Hearts, and 3 Bronze Stars. And, I surround myself with epic American patriots. And then we specialize in a custom learning experience. So we show you safety concepts, and then we throttle to your skill set. It's family friendly, and it's something that everyone should try once. And we focus on eliminating training scars, which gives me a lot of experience, hard focusing on scenario-based training only for the last 15 years. And so I can bring a little value to, and I just wanted to frame that context. That's all I'm obsessed with is purpose-based learning, Force Science certified multiple times over. So again, with no military or law enforcement background, I have every credential a civilian can have, and I stay in my lane, and I'm obsessed with providing the best possible experience for people that want to learn how to practice or something they ever want to fail at.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Philip, very much. We just got kicked off of Facebook, by the way. Something.
It might have been my illegal shirt here. We asked for forgiveness, not permission.
That's too funny. So actually, somebody in the comment section mentioned that they love your shirt, and I've got a video. I just got to move it from my phone over to my laptop that I'll play in a couple minutes. But let me do the opener for this segment of our main topic. So this episode is all about the likelihood that most people will die when assaulted, whether it be standalone incident, being caught up in a riot, or being on the X during a terrorist attack. And I'm talking like a life or death situation, not, simple robbery. That applies whether you have a gun or not. The majority of Americans have no scenario training or stress inoculation, which makes them very vulnerable to going into condition black. In other words, just shutting down. 70% of Floridians who are killed each year by gunshot wound that did not commit suicide and were shot with their own gun, pulled the gun, went into condition black, bad guy took their gun and shot them DRT. That's what condition black is. And so it's a very dangerous place to be in. So at the end of the day, the lack of stress inoculation and mental conditioning, the going to the range and getting a concealed weapons permit. Okay, so you get familiarity with your weapon controls, you can dial in an optic. It does nothing for shooting under stress. And you have to have really realistic training to make this work. So let's go into segment 1. As usual, there's 5 segments. I titled it The Reality of Freezing Under Pressure. So most folks think owning a gun means they're safe in a violent spot, but without this training, without the reps, people just lock up and they can't shoot to save their life. And there's a great example. Look up Lumberton, North Carolina carjacking. And one of the results that you'll get will be a carjacker who stole an F-350 from a construction site. There was a good Samaritan who was also working on the site. It wasn't his truck. Goes up to the truck as the bad guy sitting in the driver's seat. The door's open, takes 5 shots from 5 feet away, misses all 5 shots. The bad guy backs the truck up about 40 yards. The guy who was the good Samaritan stands there like a deer in the headlight, and the bad guy ran him over and killed him right there. So one of the things that happens when you go into a high stress environment like that, that's life or death, you're slinging lead, is you lose your fine motor skills. So it's good to get your heart rate up, however you get your heart rate up. But in addition to that, our mutual friend Dave Kemp, and Philip's friends with him as well, he teaches people, SWAT teams to be precise, stick your hands in a bucket of ice for a minute or two to the point that you're ready to scream to get your hands out, and then go run drills and check out how accurate you aren't if you've never trained with that level of essentially physical stress. So even with a weapon, handy, clear thinking just goes away. And if you don't react to it like a linebacker does, like a linebacker doesn't stop and think, oh, that guy's going through the C gap, I should probably move to the C gap. If a linebacker stopped and thought like that, the running back will be long past them, right? It's got to be an autonomic response. The only way to get that autonomic response is reps, and reps. So Philip, I'm going to come back to you first. I want to hear some anecdotal stories on real world situations where somebody's gone in condition black that you're either aware of or you witnessed or one of your students shared with you.
Absolutely. So stress affects the body very differently. You can have visual and audio exclusion. You can have memory loss. And what we run into a lot just in our own experience that we've witnessed firsthand is you bring in these world champion competitive shooters. And they, shoot a gun for a living, and they know where the targets are. They know what they're doing, and they have the stage they map out. But then when you put them in out of context and you put them in an organic scenario, you find that they resort to the gun too much. And similar to what you're saying, there's a lot of times where they will freeze because they have practiced under stress in a match, but out of context, they're not ready for a real adrenaline dump, like not nervousness, but a real adrenaline dump where it spikes. And so a lot of my mentors, Ken Murray, trained at Speed of Life. I have Tony Blauer is a friend of yours. I've taken his instructor level class, just soaking up as much knowledge as possible. Gabe Suarez, another guy. And these are situations where, again, you are not going to rise to the occasion. You're going to drop to your lowest level of training, and then you'll be half as good as that.
Man, that's you said a mouthful there, but apologies. I'm trying to get this video up to share with our audience, Philip. Randy, I mean, as a Green Beret, clearly you guys went through a shit ton of stress inoculation. But before we get deep into it, I'd like to hear your thoughts on how the body's natural fight or flight response plays into why people just shut down during sudden violence. And if you have any anecdotal stories of somebody that you went to war with who locked up, I'd like to hear that as well, just for some context.
Yeah. So, as the stress inoculation part, I'll address that first, because I like your example of sticking your hands in ice, right? So you'll lose the fine dexterity in your fingers and your hands, right? That's what you lose. And those fine motor skills is what I meant to say, the fine motor skills. However, there's still a piece you're missing, right? Because as our other guest, heck, I just forgot his name, that mentioned, the spike. You don't get Philip. Yeah, Philip. You don't get that spike like when he referenced the professional shooters. When you're on the timer, yes, your stress goes up a little bit, but it's not the same as when you actually have that fight or flight. Wham! When that thing hits, you have no control over your body for 3 or 4 minutes. And so you just go into what your body knows as it's trained, which is why in special operations we train to the level we do, and over and over and over and over, doing them perfectly. So when that stress kicks in and your body just goes into doing what it knows, it does the right thing. Because certainly for the military, in the aspect of special operations, and you're going through a door, somebody's front door, or however you're breaching their domicile, you are definitely having the real adrenaline kick. And so, you want that 3 or 4 seconds, you doing the right thing, because 3 or 4 seconds in a gunfight is definitely more than enough time to get shot dead before you can actually take control. And, I've seen a couple of instances, but the best example I'm going to give is my own, and it wasn't from me freezing up. But, I've worked on an ambulance, as we've mentioned many times before, 35 years ago. One of the things I learned back then even, is when you have that adrenaline jump, as I mentioned, you don't have any control. So one of the things I learned on an ambulance, because I've been to many fires, I've picked up whole families, unfortunately, that didn't make it out during my time. But you cannot, as we all know, right? What's the old thing we've learned since kindergarten? Stop, drop, and roll. Why is that? And it's because before that, you try to put yourself out with your hands. It's impossible. It will never happen. In fact, you will burn to death before you could actually pat yourself out. It just will not work. But true to form, the moment, I got blown up, first off, when I first got hit, I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize I just got hit. But I did hear my team talk about, and now initiated, the IED drill that we practiced before we deployed. And I still remember thinking to myself, and all this is happening in slow motion, but like in fractions of a second. And I thought to myself, was that us? And then the next thing I know, first I'd noticed my pen is gone. I'm writing on a map with a pen where a roadblock is. And now all that's gone. And I'm trying to figure out what just happened. And when I'm asking myself, was that just us? The next thing I know, my legs went from, I'm sitting like I am right now, to like lighting a matchstick. And the flames were up to here. I have inhalation wounds. I don't have any fingerprints on my hands. Now, I had brand new mechanics gloves that were supposed to be the Mac, but it didn't matter. So my point to the whole story is, the moment I went up and I had flames up in front of my face and my legs were fully involved, that adrenaline kicked in. And I'm sitting there patting myself out. I'm trying to pat my legs out. And I still remember to this very day, which now it was 19 years ago, I still remember to this day asking myself, why are you doing that? It doesn't work.
Wow.
But that's what my body knew to do. And then when the door opened, I then just kind of poured out. And I remember thinking, but also the medic, who was the guy that opened the door for me, was saying it at the exact same time: stop, drop, and roll. But my point to that whole thing is, that is how powerful that adrenaline spike is. So you don't have control over it. And sticking your hands in ice will be good. But the way we always did it was by PT and running or road marching for miles. So when you got to the objective, which was the range at this point in the stress inoculation training, you were breathing heavy, you were soaking in sweat, and you were half smoked. So that is when you test out your stress inoculation skills, because it isn't just those fine motor skills that you lift. Now you got all this heavy breathing, and breathing comes down to sight, picture, breathing, and trigger control. And all those are very, very hard skills to do which is why when Chris told the case about the guy that got run over, this happens all the time, folks, to people like any civilians. You have your gun, you went to the range and shot paper targets, you think you're ready, but when it really comes down and you're actually going to have to use that thing, it's going to be adrenaline jump like you probably have not experienced before. And it happens all the time. Civilians and sometimes even police officers empty a whole magazine and don't hit anything. They waste that entire first magazine because they're just all over the place, and you have to be able to dial yourself back in with breathing and trigger control as well as everything else. So it's, practicing stress inoculation is not easy, and it's not meant to be, but it just very well might save your life if you ever had to use it.
Yeah, Philip, let me get you up on another stage here. There we go. So a couple things just quickly before I go to the next question for you, Philip. The rate of bullets shot by law enforcement officers in America each year always hovers somewhere around 17 to 20%. So that's just a little tidbit on top of what Randy said. So 80+% of shots taken by law enforcement miss their target. Not that they're bad shooters, but being under stress, a totally different deal, number one. Number two, I found the video and it is not edited. I'm going to play it anyway. There's a chance that CommieTube might give us a strike, but whatever. Like Philip said, it's better to, beg for forgiveness than ask for permission, right? So let me restart this here because it's on Instagram, which is a pain in the butt because you can't control when the video starts and whatnot, but here we go.
Look how close this guy is.
There's 1 shot, 2, 3, 4. Pulled the trigger a 5th time. The round didn't go off. This is bad.
That wasn't even 5 feet.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
That is a real video. That is not AI at all. That's a great indication of stress inoculation not existing. That guy had lost all control of his firearm. Question for you, Philip. Apologies for taking a minute to get to. What role does people outsourcing their safety for many decades now play as far as making people vulnerable and freezing up? People aren't used to defending themselves anymore. It's outsourced. Somebody else will look after my safety.
Yes, this is a deep rabbit hole you just gave me. So thank you for that one. And
Go
yes,
deep.
Randy,
Go deep.
Yeah, right. Randy, thank you so much for sharing that story. Inoculation to stress is what we call it. And then I want people to be unconsciously competent. And while, we focus with us, we focus on what's more likely to happen, which is nothing, looking for pre-fight indicators. And then we start to throttle from there. When you see something unusual, give it more attention. What we found in training on our side is that if you don't, a lot of people practice to get good at practicing. They don't get good to be in a game. And so that's why, again, I referenced earlier, in scenarios and purpose-based learning, people do freeze. And that's the best time and the safest atmosphere to give them that moment to let those gears kind of engage. And I have got a lot of really neat scenarios that I can share with you, Chris, later. And you can play on the show that shows where people are freezing, and, you know, with Tony Blauer's spear gear and, you know, all kinds of neat stuff, we can play pretend as real as possible. And we can't obviously simulate the real thing, but we get as close as we can. We talk about play pretend as real as possible with shock knives and UTM battlefield blanks and things like that, where we can put people unconsciously, unknowingly into scenarios. And yes, Randy, I've had people dump an entire mag at me from 7 yards away and miss every shot. And then they're like, I shot you. Why didn't you, you know, and then you have to go back and explain to them, hey, even if you do hit me, right, you're not going to notice. You're not going to see it through the shirt. You know, there's certain things where you shoot until the threat stops. So just a lot of really neat little things that I've been able to learn from Dom Rosso and a bunch of awesome mentors that I've had. And then, you know, Randy, you're invited. You know, Chris has come out and seen what we do as far as organic learning. And that's my biggest fear. The biggest thing I want you guys to take away, or your listeners, is the fact that you might be getting really good at doing the wrong things. If you're going to go to a range and think that you can stand there, 2-dimensional range, pick up a firearm from a table, and then with untimed, without moving one-handed with other shit in your hand, you know, you think that just you're a marksman from 5 to 7, even 15 yards away with no time pressure, and you're slowly taking your time, and you've got trigger work, or you've got some stuff done on your gun, and you've got this new race gun. In real life, immediate imminent threat, most bad things, by the time you're going to figure out what's going on, it's 3 feet to 3 yards away. And if you're not dynamically moving, trying to index something from concealment, typically multiple layers while you're moving in a lower light condition, and then keeping your gun running, right? Because that's another thing. If it can and will happen, Murphy's alive and well. So the gun malfunctions, can you clear it while you're moving, getting chased? Can you clear it while you're moving one-handed if you get hit, you know, strong side or support side? So that's the really neat stuff that I like to study and be around awesome people like Randy. And we just look to grow our team, and then we grow our family. And then we want to give average everyday citizens an experience to find out where they are, because a lot of them think they're a 7, but they're really a 2, if that makes sense, right? So this is the safest place to practice. And then the legality, Chris, which, as you know, you partner with some great people, the before, during, and after a situation. You can do everything right and still get sued. You can do everything right and still get in trouble. The jury can find you not guilty, and then the judge can override that and give you a 2nd-degree felony. The judge can override the jury. People don't realize this stuff. So it's really hard focusing and studying. And then, you know, with your valuable time, that's why WOFT exists, to give you the absolute best of a student to instructor ratio. So like in scenario training, Randy, we'll have 6 instructors for 1 student, which is unheard of. Because if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And if, you know, Randy, you know, it's just me and Chris in this scenario, you're going to be like, all right, Chris is over there. Where's Philip? He's coming out next. He's coming out. And you're going to game it. So we have eliminated all of that with the best gear, the best equipment, and all that other stuff. And again, this, 15 years of hard focusing and doing nothing but purpose-based learning through 4 science principles, and being around awesome people like you, Randy, to help guide us. And we're the blank white canvas that, you know, Randy, I don't, you know, you're dialed in, but what about if you have any kids? What if you have any grandkids? How do you give them some experience so the next time they're approached by a stranger in a transitional space at a gas station or what have you, they think and react faster, a little under stress? And that's where we start from, the baseline of learning how to see a potential predator, be a hard target, magnify your voice, use flashlights, right, Chris? You know how I love flashlights. This is our new one. The prototype's coming out in April. It's 2,000 lumens. It'll be the best thing on the market when it comes out. But that's the takeaway. And I apologize for going so long, Chris. It's not me. It's the Holy Spirit. I just get all excited when I talk about safety and things like that. But we want to give the average everyday civilian. They don't have rules of engagement. They're just going to the grocery store. They don't expect something to happen. And then they can get approached by a transient that, you know, we live in Lake County, so we're very lucky. But if you go one county over to Orlando, it can be a lot more festive, especially early in the morning or late at night. And depending on what state your listeners live in, a lot of them have a duty to retreat, which sucks, absolutely sucks. So the fact that they're going to rise to the occasion, right, Randy, when they're really afraid and the adrenaline's really hitting and they get that tunnel vision, and then it's like for them to perform or to think they're going to perform just because they own a gun. What's that saying? You know, buying a guitar and saying you're a musician. So that's the cool stuff that we make it very easy. We want, you know, Chris brings his missus, and that's what we want. We want to make it so that everyone in your family and everyone on your team and everyone in your community are a little bit better handling situations that you want to avoid. And then when you get good at that, then we start to crank it up, because I want to focus first with your valuable time on what's more likely to happen, which is nothing.
So, Philip, a comment from one of our people, and it's one of our guardians. Do they do virtual training? So, Philip and I have discussed this ad nauseum. Go ahead and give us the spiel on virtual training.
Yeah. So here's the thing: there is no substitute for an in live experience, because as Randy will back me up on this. You know, if you know it's not real, you're going to cheat. If Randy knows I'm not wearing the proper gear for us to go hands-on, I'm not going to get close to that man because he's going to hurt me. And so it's like they're training scars. So I want people to understand the context of virtual reality is that, yes, it's really good to show you some concepts. But again, there are many training scars that can come from virtual reality because you know it's not real. Even if you put on the headset and you're, oh my gosh, you lose spatial, your body does not going to get that same dump as Randy did such a good job of understanding, where it's like, you don't know your name. You don't remember what's going on. You don't know anything that's going on. And unless you are really battle tested, and unless you have tortured yourself to a point where you're unconsciously competent, you are not going to rise to that. So I think VR has a really good place. You know, Chris, it's one of those things where our experience, which you have seen now multiple times, I think that could be a good training simulator via with AI, right? And artificial intelligence of learning. And then like Chris, people going through low light, for example, and at the end you get a debrief and it says, well, Chris, you only got 250 points out of a potential 1,000. And it goes back and then can show you what you didn't do right. So that way, when you ultimately come to WOFT, and now you get that real adrenaline dump because you're like, hey, they can go hands-on. They can touch me in here. What's going on? And now you've got a UTM, Randy, which is how you might carry. And you might carry a separate blade. So we have training blades. And you might have other tools that you can have on you. Hick's Law, we don't want to give you more things because it makes it harder to make a decision when you're learning something. And we want to make it easy and fun when you're learning it. But then we stress test it once you know it. And we see how you can actually apply it. So I think VR has a great point. It is the future, but we have to understand it in proper context.
Yeah, well said, Philip. So I'll just cover a few things quickly. Somebody had made a comment that they couldn't do any of this type of training at their local range. So number one, they do a lot more than just firearm stuff at WOFT, and we'll get deeper into that. Number two, there's good options like the Mantis X products, the Unit Solutions products, where you can train in your backyard or somewhere where you're typically not allowed to use a firearm. And you can sprint, shoot, sprint, do a body weight exercise like push-ups, do some band exercises, dumbbells. This is my routine, what I do. Intensity trumps duration. Once you get your heart rate up there, yes, it's not the same stress as being under live fire. But if you think you can hit the broadside of a barn with 140 beats per minute and you've never trained like that, you won't come anywhere near hitting anything. And then add an element of moving on top of that. So now your heart rate's over 140, you're in motion, you're trying to look through an optic, and you're trying to hit something. It takes a shit ton of training to do this. And that, I mean, I'm speaking from experience here. The other thing is that a lot of trainers like Philip use these. This is actually from WOFT. This is a UTM round. So you take a real firearm, you modify a few pieces in it, It has a primer in it. So the auditory report is just like a regular shot. Philip and his guys are wearing protective gear. And this cranks the stress level up even further, especially in an enclosed scenario. Philip's the only guy who loves flashlights as much as me, by the way, but I have the bigger collection because I've got something like 200 flashlights, but that's another story.
Win.
It's a weakness. My point is this: the flashlight training, I'm going to be honest, when Cindy and I first went, I was thinking to myself, yeah, okay, whatever. And then we watched it unfold, and it was insane. Philip's got a 2-story building with a mezzanine around the top that's blacked out. He brings a vehicle in, lights it up like it's nighttime to pretend that you're at a gas station and you have nothing but a flashlight. And the goal is to interrupt the OODA loop of the attackers. But I watched Philip give a family of 4 very just clear instructions that said, when you come out of the convenience store, if there's somebody of concern at the front and the back of your vehicle, choose safety, go back inside. So he picks on this 18-year-old girl in this family as the very first person to go. She didn't even get to see anybody else go. And every single rep she did, she nailed it, except for one. She didn't get the door locked quite fast enough. And one of Philip's guys ended up in the passenger seat, and she would have been cooked at that point in time. So, and she did multiple reps, probably a dozen reps. Okay. Fast forward to the end of this session. There's probably 20 people involved, not including Philip's team. And the father goes, and he got killed almost every single time. And so there was like 2 bad guys at the front of the vehicle, 1 at the back. So he decided, well, 2's too many. So I'll go take on the guy at the back. And he got stabbed and killed. DRT. It blew me away to watch it. But here's the funny part. When we had a break and everybody's in Philip's dining area, he's got great food. I'm walking by the tables, listening to people looking at their watches going, holy shit, I did that exercise 45 minutes ago. My heart rate's still 140 beats per minute. Like, it's as realistic as it gets. Like, it's absolutely crazy. So before we go into the second segment, here's the video that I mentioned when somebody made a comment on Philip's t-shirt. Well, if you liked his t-shirt, this is a range bathroom, by the way, and there's a couple of these.
Yeah, I asked for forgiveness, not permission. That's marble on the floors, marble on the walls, all the neat stuff. Above average. Be careful on that toilet, because you need a nuclear science degree to get that working.
So there's Mickey Mouse right there. The other one has some great artwork, by the way, that goes with it as well. It is quite an experience at WOFT, but we'll move on from there, and I'll get us into segment number 2. So segment number 2 is titled Standalone Assaults, Why Guns Aren't Enough. So in a sudden violence situation, many armed people still end up hurt or worse because they panic, can't get to their gun fast or use it right. The lack of hands-on drills essentially means they fumble under the rush of adrenaline that Randy spoke to, and that gives the bad guy time to close in and turn the tables. And keep in mind, distance equals safety. So real safety comes from weapon skills, quick thinking, movement, but also the only way that you can get to this level is you take your stress level so high, and then you fall to your level of training. It's an old Sun Tzu adage. Randy, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Talk a little bit about, because you've been in multiple firefights. Speak a little bit more with regards to how adrenaline just completely wrecks your hand-eye coordination when you're taking live fire as well.
Well, as I mentioned, when a true adrenaline jump hits you and that spike occurs, your fingers shake a little bit. So just think about now, if you were like, we'll take it, if you were playing the game Operations. Everybody remember that game back in the day? You're not going to be able to, with your hand shaking, you're not going to be able to reach in there. The funny thing is, I'm almost certain you can't even really load magazines. That's how much your hands are shaking. So it's one of those things in the stress inoculation. We also train on, changing out magazines. You're not loading them, but you do have to change them out. Because the fact of the matter is, when you walk in a room and bullets are going the other way, it is amazing how quickly, but you don't really feel, I mean, you kind of feel the adrenaline jump. You feel that there's a sense of heightened awareness, but then your vision comes way down like this. And that's what they call the tunnel vision. And so one of the things, again, that you have to do is also ask yourself some questions, because then it'll bring blood back to your brain when it all just left your brain and went to the big muscles of your body. And, you know, when that happens, like I said, there you don't really have a whole lot of control. So you just kind of go about what you're trained on. And, you know, with civilians, if you're not trying, you know, it's the same thing as when we see what they call deer in the headlight looks, right? Because some people, when you freeze, it's that adrenaline jump that's so strong, it just locks you down. And at that point, you can't even move. And you look exactly like a deer on the road in the headlights of a vehicle. You know, I always tell women, right? Certainly your average woman in this country, not somebody that's been trained, not somebody that's well-versed in weapons and has shot a bunch. That person is going to be different. But like some of the women that asked questions earlier and some of these older women, what if you get into the situation you think you might have to use a firearm? I get it. You know, we talk about distance of safety, but you wouldn't believe how many women get that gun taken away from them and then killed with their own gun. And so I always say, you know, as unsafe as it's going to be, if you're a woman, you do not pull out that gun until that person's already come and put their hands on you, right? Because then really all you have to do is pull out that gun and stick it to their chest cavity, and you pull the trigger if it's a revolver till it starts clicking. If it's a semi-automatic, you keep pulling the trigger till it don't pull anymore. And that keeps you from being the victim. But there is a fair amount of risk there. But again, I think it's just easier if they don't know you have the weapon and you pull it out the last second. And then, you know, it's their problem for attacking you. But anytime that you to be in a gunfight, to try to explain that to folks is almost impossible. What I will say is, you know, if it happened today to any of y'all, you would be as scared as you've ever been in your entire life in a complete instant. And then that shaking of your hands doesn't go away for quite some time. Even though the adrenaline comes back down, it's just like for guys that have, you know, gotten fist fights back in the day when they were in high school, an hour later or even 30 minutes later, your hands are still shaking a little bit because of your central nervous system. And so when you kick that thing off, you don't really have control over it. So, you know, again, I would, you know, hope that doesn't happen to you. But if you have the chance to go somewhere, I understand not all ranges do that. Everybody has a tactical range in your area. That I can promise you. You just have to search and find where the tactical range is. You're probably gonna have to pay a little bit more to go there. But the fact is, then you can maybe do a little bit of stress inoculation training, because even professionals, right? Even the dudes at CAG who are professional shooters, they shoot 50 or 60,000 rounds a year at a minimum, probably. You know, and when they're training, their group is way down like this. But even when they go into combat, it opens up like this. And mine may be like this now, right? It's actually a little better, but we'll do this for easiness. But no matter what, even mine, under stress inoculation, or when you have that adrenaline, your grouping is going to open up. So the fact, if you have not practiced, you think about if your group's already like this, like a lot of people's are, the bullets are all over the place. It looks like you fired a shotgun at it. Just think about how now most of those won't even be on the paper target. And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So thanks, Randy. So Philip, you always talk and so does Tony Blair for that matter, that distance equals safety. And this segment is on, you know, the standalone attacks. Can you share some tips on spotting trouble early to avoid, you know, engaging, contacting that standalone threat like a robber, let's say?
Sure. Pre-fight indicators. We study God's creatures' natures on predators select prey, and everything from walking to stance to just looking, who's looking at you. You have mom and you know, their children say, hey, we're going to play a game, because the kids can be another set of eyes for mom. You're at a gas station and we're going to say who's looking at mom. And then, you know, when a predator decides to, in a solo situation, attack or approach someone, they have to close distance. They have to make a decision. They pick you, and then they close the distance, and then they attack. And if you can interrupt that process at any time, you can potentially divert them to somebody else, and you can change their mind real time, because a lot of it, unless it's just a hit and now you're at a whole nother animal, or if it's a random violence, is really hard to see, really hard to defend against. But a lot of times you can see it coming and then do certain things to avoid it, mirroring all kinds of neat real things that, you know, again, I could talk all day on this stuff. I just geek out over it. Some things that I want to add, if I may, to some things that Randy said, which are really good, is for us, we have a lot of training blades, knives, and we really want people to, again, focus on, if they feel uncomfortable, you know, before they train enough that they can be unconsciously competent. We don't want them training. We don't want them carrying firearms, because it's similar to what Randy just said, that sometimes it can be taken away and used against them. Well, you know, again, I want them to invest time to get to that as soon as they possibly can. But knives are a really good thing, that if women are afraid if someone's going to grab them or try to rape them or move them from here to there, they can be a bunny rabbit, but then turn into a porcupine. And certain blades that we carry, Chris, that you've seen, there's a lot of good ones out there. Bastinelli is one of the ones that a custom maker in Orlando that we use. And certain blades that they have certain ways to grip it and index it that you're not going to get it out of my hand. So it's like it cannot be taken away. So that's one thing for people, just as a secondary, right? Everyone should carry a flashlight every day, all the time. And then from the flashlight, you know, potentially pepper spray, that's non-lethal. But, you know, it's got its places. But then blades are a really good thing. And then obviously, ultimately, a firearm. Everyone should carry a firearm all the time. I've got two quick stories. You know, one is Miss Lindsay. She's trained with us. And 2 weeks after that, she was at an airport and almost got abducted. And she was able to spot it, see it, and then, you know, the adrenaline hits, and then she thought of it. And it's like she has this whole video, Chris, I can share with you later, about how she avoided it. And she attested that, you know, her training at WOFT was a thing that saved her. And then we have another mom who shoots competitively. She was Memorial Day weekend. She was going to the grocery store, and, you know, she just, it's only 3 miles away. I'm not going to carry my gun. I'm not going to carry my spare mag. I'm not going to carry all the stuff, because she was in flip-flops because it's Memorial Day weekend, and she got caught up in the family stuff, and she just ran to the grocery store real quick. Well, she's only 5 foot nothing, and she looks like a little kid. And as she was coming out of the grocery store, there were two teams working that almost abducted her. And she called me afterwards crying. And because she saw it happen, she reacted loud, flashlight, got off the X, saw it coming, engaged with them early, was not afraid of offending anybody with her voice. And she called me and she goes, you know, Philip, thank God I froze with you. And because I didn't freeze in real life. And that's what gives me the drive, the fact that we want people to fail in a safe situation. And the things that Randy talks about, you know, you're gonna freeze. And, it's something that we want to give you some experience so you make educated decisions. And then, Randy, you also mentioned about, ranges, tactical ranges. Chris, you know this. I looked for years to find proper insurance, because that's another really big deal, because there's a lot of good ones out there, but instructor scenario insurance is something that is really hard to come by. So that's something that we found with X Insurance. And it's something that everyone out there that's an instructor, please look them up, because there are gaps in coverage. I'm not talking about self-defense insurance. I'm talking about force on force insurance that, your two-dimensional range is not, the general liability is not going to cover you. Your instructor insurance, if you're doing jujitsu or empty hand stuff, is not going to cover you. So that's just something for all of you out there, just public service, please look that up. It's very important. And I'm sorry. I get excited. I want to share a lot.
It's all good, Philip. Thank you. Appreciate the example. So we're going into segment number 3, surviving riots, training versus panic when caught in a riot. Riots, mess of crowds and people and confusion. Even gun owners often go down because they haven't trained for the group chaos, and they get overwhelmed. And without stress and practice, many people black out. They do some bad moves like firing wildly or freezing completely as, you know, the mob closes in. So true prep means running drills to stay sharp, but specific drills like riot related drills. And at the end of the day, most people are just like sitting ducks in these types of situations. Think of what happened in Orlando, right? Philip, at what was the nightclub again? The name escaped me. Pulse. Yeah, Pulse nightclub. So a lot of people just froze in place and got shot up. Some people had, I don't even want to call it presence of mind, but they retreated to the restrooms and they hid in the stalls. And of course, the bad guy saw that and he walked in and shot them all like shooting fish in a barrel. So, you know, pretty brutal. But with that being said, Randy, I'd like to get your thoughts on this next level, right? So we talked about individuals, like a one-on-one type of scenario. What's it like training for, you know, not one-on-one, but all of them against you? And I'm assuming at some point in your training, maybe infantry and Green Beret, maybe just Green Beret, you did some scenario training like that. I'd like to hear your thoughts on just how much harder it is.
Well, I was amazed when I was in the infantry, and certainly once I got out. But even when I got in, we did some shooting, but we didn't shoot anywhere near. You only qualified twice a year, and then you had 1 or 2 live shoots a year. It was pretty pitiful, in fact. And I thought, geez, for the infantry guy, you should be like shooting all the time. But as I mentioned before, what does that come down to? Money. So, but once I got to special operations, that definitely changed. And one thing I'll say is we talked about the panic, right? And then getting all excited. And one of the things they teach you to help lower your blood pressure, you know, Chris can try this. Really what you do, you know, people will say box breathing, but I will tell you what happens when you have that full adrenaline bump, boom. And certainly when it's real life, you are breathing so hard that, you know, holding your breath for the same amount of time isn't going to work. But what they teach you in special operations is, you know, you try to slow your breathing out, right? You drag out longer breaths in and longer breaths out. And you repeat this for a little bit. It will slow you, it will bring down your blood pressure, and it will help you calm things. And of course, because it always comes down to breath. That's the truth. That's the truth of the matter. Your breath is that important, whether you're nervous or not, or even when you're shooting, as I mentioned, breathing, there's a technique for that as well. It's that important. And so it's how you bring yourself back down, because one of the things Chris Boheme said a little while back, which is absolutely true, the person that stays the calmest usually wins. Let me say that again. The person that stays the calmest usually wins. And why? Because they were able to keep their head about them. And some of that is going to do, some people can do it naturally. Most people cannot. It's going to come down to you realizing this and then starting that breathing and asking yourself some questions in those fractions of a second that are going to matter the most. And, you know, when it comes to, you know, I don't know that everybody's capable of this, because it's the same thing getting into special operations. Shooting is a big deal. The higher you go, like I said, up to CAG, it's even a bigger deal, because you're going to take on multiple targets. It's not going to just be you and one other person. And at that point, what works best is dialing in. You know, if you shit yourself, if you panic in this moment, you will be very lucky to survive. If you do, thank your lucky stars, thank God, and that's it. Because otherwise, generally, you shit the bed and you panic, and the other person doesn't, you're probably in a gunfight, you're going to get dead. And, you know, so the other point is, you know, sometimes it also comes down to, right, whose buddy shows up first. That's who wins that little fight. But when it comes to multiple targets, again, you have to dial in, and you have to be able to operate like a robot. That is no joke. Boom, 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 boom. And then you just think about the job you have to do. If you're trying to think about other things outside of that, it's too much, and you're not going to be able to do it. So you want to take some deep breaths, slow your breathing out, where you draw your in breath and your out breath, your inhale and exhale out a little bit to help calm yourself down, and then focus on the job in hand. If you've got all these people, you've got to aim small, shoot small. That's been around forever. There's a reason that saying is still around, because it is a fact. And in these types of instances, that's what matters the most. Now, also with the multiple targets, you also have to know, just like poker, when to fold them, right? There might be a time that you need to retreat or egress a little bit to have a better fighting position. And that would be my advice on that.
Thanks, Randy. So, Philip, while we're on the topic of riots, I'm curious, how does noise in particular, amongst all of the other stimuli in a riot, completely short circuit people's thinking process when they've had no reps, no scenario training reps to speak of?
Yeah, so it's a lot of really cool points that Randy talked about. When it comes to the audio visual exclusion, right? When the adrenaline dump hits, a lot of times you're not going to hear anything. And in scenario training with us, it's like, and you're not going to hear anything. And what's really neat is the gear that we wear, it also helps. It hinders you. So it's like in real life, you won't have a helmet on and other things blocking, and you won't have gloves and no exposed skin because you're doing a force on force. So it'll help a little bit. And again, it just comes back to inoculation to stress. Chris, you mentioned the Pulse nightclub. Something that we can learn from nature, God's creatures, killer hornets, right? Japanese hornets, where everyone goes to run and hide, or they try to attack, the attacker one at a time. And as you know, even with a handgun or a long gun, they're just going to pick them off like, literally fish in a bucket. But Japanese killer hornets, right? In Japan, honeybees in Japan have learned the natural defense against killer hornets is they bum rush them. And so it's like what we can learn from God's creatures already have it worked out, that at the Pulse nightclub, if everyone's trying to run away and get away, but had everyone, at least a group teamed up and gone after that one person, yeah, they would have got the first 3, 4, 5, if it were Randy, probably 15 or 20, but eventually, you got to reload. And there were enough people there that they could have saved that. They could have taken that person down. So that's the one thing I'd like to add to that. And then randomly firing into a crowd, the legality of that is, especially, let's say, in Florida, we have a little more, thanks to Governor Uncle Ron, the ability to, not have to get out of our car and not have to worry about if people get in the way and we have an immediate imminent threat, then we can just slowly drive away, hopefully, right? But you cannot randomly fire into a crowd. And that is a big problem that people don't understand the legality of that, where, multiple targets. So understand that you cannot indiscriminately fire, even though someone throws or someone attacks or someone, what have you, you can't just randomly spray. You will get prosecuted and you will get arrested. And people get mad about that because they're like, they attacked me. And so that's the gray area that we really like to play in. And it really is eye-opening for a lot of people to realize that, immediate imminent threat. And both of those things go hand in hand. And then with force multipliers, predators, pack hunting, right? We see this in Animal Kingdom. There's a video that we have about a leopard seal that's sitting on a big block of ice and 4 killer whales want them. And if what we see nowadays a lot, and you guys see this all the time, it's not just one person attacking you or robbing you. It's a gang. It's a group of predators. And if you cannot see that process coming, if you cannot see them closing the distance, and if you do not have a force multiplier, you are pretty much completely out of luck defending yourself. And so that's it's a really fun thing to learn how to practice. And Randy, that's the cool thing. Again, I'll openly invite you as my VIP guest. Chris, so come and see what we're doing. I think you'd really enjoy it. And, it's God's work.
So what that means, Randy, is you pay twice as much because you're.
You know what I was thinking, Chris? I wish I still lived there. I'd have to go work for this guy. I'd just go camp out. You'd have to kick me out.
Yeah, you would absolutely love it. So the fourth segment is on terrorist attacks. I want to quickly mention our friends at Wasatch Wagyu. This is the best jerky in the world, bar none. It's got all the good fats in it. The dill pickle's absolutely terrible. I see some of you people have been buying it. Leave the dill pickle alone. I got it covered. I'll look after the dill pickle. That's my cross to bear. Discount code SD25, 25% off. Nobody else gets 25% off but our audience. Want to also mention our friends at Carnival, and I'll talk a little bit more about them shortly. But this is 25-year shelf life meat. Randy already mentioned how people who've had no power rely on that. It's 25-year shelf life. And here's the cool thing. No mRNA, no antibiotics, no histamines. It's a really trustworthy product, unlike a lot of the meats that are out there. So I'm going to put some links in the live chat in a minute with the discount codes for both wasatchwagyu.com and Carnival. That thing with Carnival, by the way, sign up for subscription and you lock your prices in for a year. Sign up for a subscription or buy $99+ a month from either of these companies and forward that receipt to support at survivaldispatch.com. If you are an annual Guardian member, each time you do that, so if you have a monthly subscription, I'll tack 30 days onto your Guardian membership. We have people who bought a Guardian membership, annual membership, and then they have a subscription with Carnival. They'll never pay us another penny as long as they keep that subscription going. So moving into segment number 4, terrorist attacks, condition black in action. So in a terror strike, sudden blast, fear, disorder, many armed civilians still fall victim because untrained minds, they black out and their bodies lock up in the terror. I'm sure that Randy can give us some descriptions on that. I know Philip can as well. So if you haven't done any of this stuff in a scenario, and it means that you have to stop and think, again, it's just like football. If you have to stop and think, you're a step behind, you're not in the play. And in this case, it's a life or death situation. You're probably DRT. And when people lock up like this, well, Philip just mentioned Pulse again. There was 49 people who essentially locked up and paid a very heavy price there. So stress hardening through mock attacks, scenario training, whatever you want to call it, is the only way to break that blackout cycle and know that you're going to survive to get more reps in. Because real world, like Randy's been in, yeah, sure, it's amazing experience. But if you make one false move, that's it. It's game over. So, Randy, I want to hear your thoughts on terrorist attacks versus, say, like a Antifa BLM riot versus being individually, picked on at a gas station. Things obviously are at a whole nother level. And if you have any anecdotes that you can share of your time in the Middle East, where it was a handful of you guys against a bunch of the bad guys, would love to hear that as well.
Well, obviously there will be a big difference between a terrorist attack, right, and some of these peaceful protests that we've seen around the country. The difference here will definitely be life and death. Some of these riots that we see going on, unfortunately, if you go there and get tangled up in it, the law is probably going to punish you. That's what we've kind of seen so far. We haven't seen as many this time, but we just think back to 2019 and 2020 when none of the people that were in the riots, causing the riots, or doing all the damage got held accountable whatsoever. And if they did, they were just arrested and let right back out. So a terrorist attack is going to be different. Obviously, it's going to be like the example we've been using, the Pulse nightclub. They're going to be there to kill you. And they're going to be there to kill as many people as possible. So there will be a huge, significant difference. The problem is, are you going to be ready when that happens? If you're some of these that are unfortunately caught in some sort of terrorist attack, or you're where it actually happens. And when that happens, as we mentioned, if you get off the X is the most important thing. It doesn't matter what type, you get off the X where people are being killed. So as we've mentioned many times on this show, if a terrorist attack kicks off where you're at and you're on the perimeter somewhere and you can leave and go, that's what you need to do. You're not going to go be some big hero running across the whole thing to try to kill one or two of those folks, because more than likely that's not going to happen, and they'll probably get you before you're able to get them. or you may end up accidentally killing some of the innocent people. Why? Because you're not a professional. So the fact is, if your best option is to leave, if you can get away and put as much distance between you and the terrorist attack, that's exactly what you want to do. If they happen to walk in right next to you and you're not getting out either way, then that's when you should actually do something. Whether you charge them, you prompt other people to charge, that old follow me works, believe it or not. Because if it happened like in the Pulse nightclub, it's, unfortunately what people do in fear is, again, that panic hits and they just run. If they didn't freeze, they just run the other way, when really all of them should have jumped on that guy. That's what they should have done. That would have been the best method of defense, was about 20 or 30 of those people just jump on that guy. Sure, he might kill one or two of them, but he's not going to kill all of them, and they will take the gun away from him. I mean, that's what happens in a crowd. One person and there's a whole crowd, you just go ahead and deal with them. That would be the best course of action. But again, it's something that you have to know and think and do. And honestly, most people are going to run away because, again, that's the best advice. Again, when it comes to that, as examples, when we found ourselves outnumbered, obviously we had different rules, even than what we have back here in the States. We had a different ROE. And if that was the case, people just went to dealing with targets as they appeared. Now, what I will say, just like what Chris was talking about earlier, or even Philip, if there's a group of folk, it was Philip, I'm sorry, and talking about a crowd of folks, right? You can't just discriminately fire into that crowd. Although that's what our sense tells us to do, legally, you're going to be responsible afterwards when that happens. And as we know, there's cameras everywhere now, so most likely you're going to be filmed. How you determine, because believe you me, they are not going to all move at once. And even if they do, then you can just start picking them out as they're coming across. But my point is, generally, there's going to be one or two or three that start moving your direction. Those are the people you take out right now. And what I can tell you, if you can take out two or three of those, generally the rest of the crowd could back off. But if it doesn't, then you're in real trouble. That's just a fact, and it comes down to, again, focusing on the task at hand, which is unfortunately putting rounds into people. And then, eventually, now generally somebody's probably not going to have a long gun. So you're going to have a pistol, and, it's going to depend on what pistol it is, of whether you got 17 rounds or you got 7. And you're going to have, my point is, you're going to have to do a mag change. So, one of the things you should practice, we practiced all the time, wasn't just shooting targets. It wasn't just moving and shooting targets. It wasn't just shooting multiple targets. It was also doing mag changes. We would, and then we would simulate a malfunction so we could do a mag change then, because you do mag changes when you run out and you do mag changes when you have a malfunction. And so you have to practice those things. The other thing that we did was, and I'd never done this before, and I've been shooting my entire life, but when I got into special operations, they were like, oh, well, can you shoot with your offhand? I'm like, hell no, I can't shoot with my offhand. So you had to we started practicing shooting with our offhand. Why? Because sometimes you get shot in your gun hand or shoulder and you can't use it. This does happen. So you also have to try to be proficient with your offhand, at least within a 10 or 15 meter radius around you. So when people are coming at you, you might have a chance. Other than that, it's hard to, without going to WOFT or somewhere like that with these folks, to be able to tell them right now what they should do when it's you and then there's 20 people. There's so much different. Again, where does this happen, what the deal is, what weapon do you have? There's a lot that falls into it. But again, it also comes down to taking some breaths, asking yourself some questions so you can actually use your brain. That way you can think, and generally the calmer you can remain, even in a very stressful situation, the better decisions you make in a split second.
So I can say unequivocally, there is nowhere in America right now that has the training that Philip does at WOFT, full stop. They might have bits and pieces, but nobody has the whole, chessboard like he does. However, our good friend Danny Zacharias and Philip are fixing to do something just like what we have in Florida and Tennessee. It's going to be badass. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Philip, I was thinking that a great thing would be to have Randy and the guys from Carnival come for a weekend together. It would be a spectacular weekend. So keep that in the back of your mind. See if we can't set that up. So Philip, I have 2 questions for you. I'll give them both right now, but by all means, ask me the second one after you give us the answer on the first one. So I want to know what sets terror apart as far as triggering total mental shutdown. And then I want to know how doing terror-specific drills builds the I don't know what you would call it, the will, the presence of mind, perhaps, to act when the real fear dump happens. But
Fantastic. Well, first off, I want to say that you've been talking about Carnival for so long that I want to sign up. So I'm a carnivore kind of guy, and I always try all different types of things. And I've heard so much about them, so I'm pledging that I'm going to sign up and start using their stuff. So that's
won't be disappointed, Phil. You will not be disappointed.
And I'm a Wagyu kind of guy, so I'm already in trouble right there. That puts it way out. That just, you're asking for trouble. What sets terror apart? So first off, obviously it starts with, it'll never happen to me. This has never happened here. You've heard this a gazillion times. Again, this is all I do is study this stuff. And it's just nauseating how many times you watch the news and someone's like, I can't believe it. This neighborhood was always nice and quiet. I didn't realize the guy was eating people next door and blah, 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 blah. Or, oh my gosh, this is a nice neighborhood. I can't believe that guy came in and just stabbed that guy in the wheelchair in the neck and then walked out, and so you're going, it'll never happen to you, right? Statistically, Chris, 70% of people that come to visit us have already had something bad happen to them.
Wow.
And so I want to make it fun and entertaining and have a skill at arms and make it a fun family experience to again, and that's kind of my mission for that. So terror attacks, okay, what sets them apart? Well, first off, is it a robbery or is it a mass shooting? Right? Think about that for a second, because we've had this happen in the coffee shop run in multiple scenarios. Guys come in and we've had mass shootings, but we've also had robberies. Like we recreated the Point Break ex-president, scenario, and people come running in there with long guns, 4 of them, and they have the ex-presidents. I mean, like I spare no expense, Chris, as you know, and we ordered the mask from Point Break, not the crappy second one, the good first one. And we got a special UTM mask that allowed to get a good cheek well, Randy, so you don't have the UTM, space mask, but it's actually the good cheek well masks. And then we cut the ex-president's masks and we glued them to the helmets. So it looked just like the real Point Break, but no exposed skin. So the reason why I say that is because if someone's coming in there and saying, give me the money, we just want the money, right? It's like, let the place get robbed. It's insured. Don't go up against 4 guys with long guns if they're just robbing the place. Take that extra second. Are they walking in and indiscriminately shooting people? And it took a second, so like that's my wish for all of you. Get some training. Okay, I'll go into our large group scenarios thing in a moment, but get some training with someone who is insured, who does purpose-based learning, for science, certified kind of thing. And then that way there's some purpose behind it. It's not just entertainment or shock value. You're actually learning something from every scenario. So that is the takeaway part. Is it getting robbed? If it is, it's insured. Let it get robbed. Don't go out in a blaze of glory. Or is it a mass shooting where now you need an immediate threat, and if it's going to be me or you, it's going to be you, and I'm going to take you with me kind of deal, right? So that's number one. And then dirt medicine with that. So important, right? We cannot talk about scenario training if you're not talking about dirt medicine or a tourniquet stop the bleed, and you're not talking about the legality of the legal consequences of before, during, and after, because we've seen too many videos where guys, the place is getting robbed. The guy steals everything. He's walking out And as he's walking out, he gets shot in the back from a concealed carry guy that pulls out and shoots him. And you're going, dude, let him go. Let him go. Because now you just, as you both of you know, you just signed up for 3 years of your life. And if you're not insured, you are, and even at that point, it's going to be, you know, the gray area. And it's like, you didn't have an immediate imminent threat, and people get shocked when I tell them that. And when I show them that video, and it's like 95% of people who get prosecuted, it ends in some kind of conviction because they overcharge it and then they plea down. And then the terror specific drills. So it kind of piggybacks off what I just said. Basically, is it a robbery or is it a mass shooting? That's why I carry a spare mag. That's why I carry 2 tourniquets, because it's like, you know, good luck. We're already behind the curve because the bad person gets to select the place, the time. They're going to come overwhelmingly with overwhelming firepower, and they're probably going to be hopped up on some drugs or have some body armor. And now here we are with a handgun, right, Randy, trying to engage somebody that, you know, might be 10, 15, 20 yards away with superior firepower. You're right. We need to just go. Right? Because engaging with that's a personal responsibility that you choose. And that's the other thing where it's like, you really want to have a conversation that matters. What's your why? Why do you care every day? And what are you willing to do? And what are you willing to put, you know, if my family is my first responsibility, I'm going with them and making sure they're safe first. And that's a hard decision for some people to make. Right? And you don't know what you're going to do unless you have that dialed in with yourself. So terror specific drills. So once a year, Chris knows this. You're invited this year, Chris, again. Randy, you're invited. The December class, the first weekend after Thanksgiving, for the last 15 years. This will be our 15th year. We do large group scenarios. So, Chris, this year we broke our record. We had 52 people in one scenario.
Wow.
And what I do is we have 25 role players, and we had, 27 dedicated VIP students. And what I did is I rate out each scenario based on what I know about you, if you're bringing the misses. And then I set a scenario. So I give you a 3x5 card. It tells you what waypoint you start at. We have 13 vehicles. And this year we introduced dirt medicine. So we had trauma medicine. So when scenarios would happen, we had fake arms and they're bleeding. And it's like, you come out of the coffee shop and there might be someone who's shot on the ground. And do you go over them, Randy? Right? It's like adding that. So it's a 3-day class. And the first 2 days we focus on the concepts, learning, and the stations. And then the third day, we actually run large group scenarios all day. We run 6 scenarios a day because the debrief kind of takes a lot. But so imagine 52 people have roles. And I take some of my life essence, and it takes, probably about 100 hours to literally plan out. And a lot of times we'll take 1 or 2 scenarios from real life that have happened in the last year or two. And like, for example, the last class, we took one from the mall shooting where the concealed carry Dickens, or I believe, and where he took down a guy with a long gun over 25 yards away, 7 out of 10 hits with a Glock. And it is one of those things where the law just recently changed, where had it not changed a week and a half prior, he probably would not have been carried. And now that would have been a mass shooting, and that would have been a real thing of terror. But large group scenarios, that there is nothing better. When I traveled the country and I was doing scenario training, I was like, this is really cool, but if I can track 3 people, Randy can track 7 people, you can track 10 people, but you can't track 40 people. And so you just learn to react to what happens. And that is the best gift I can give someone, is with your family, having 13 vehicles with an armored car and a creepy candy van that plays ice cream truck music that just spooks out. I still can't get that noise out of my head. And we build a gas station, and we use the coffee shop as the convenience store. And so you might be in one of the vehicles and getting gas, and then you have to pay inside, or you're walking one of the waypoints, which you might run into a transient. So just learning how to do that. And so, Randy, I'm going to date myself here. Remember that old football game of all metal pieces, and you put them on the board, and then you put them where you think they're going to go, and you turn on, they all vibrate, and they kind of go in a certain direction, but you never know what the hell is going to go, but you have a pretty good idea.
I still have one of those.
Yeah. Aren't those, that was the best. That and the Etch-a-Sketch is how I got back.
Hey, I pulled that out a couple of Christmases ago because I can't beat my kid at video games anymore. He still kicked my butt on that metal field, man.
Yeah, I tell you what, that is the best. That is the best organic learning, is to have someone has to take one for the team. But then I give you your 3x5 card. And by the way, you're meeting the missus in the coffee shop. And Chris, you start in car 5. You dropped her off for some shopping. You drive around to pump 3. You got to pay inside. And now you're meeting your wife at the blue table in the coffee shop. Your wife starts at waypoint A and she has to walk to waypoint B and then walk into the coffee shop, order a coffee, and then sit at the blue table and wait for you. Now, while you're doing that, 53 other people are pre-positioned in other spots, and on the siren, everyone starts walking. And so if something happens, what do you do? Because now Chris can't leave because he's meeting his girl, right? And it's like that kind of stuff is like it's the best thing that I could ever imagine, and no one else was doing it around the country. So I decided to do that once a year, and that's what we started 15 years ago. And then we started filling in the stuff in between. So Randy, that's my area of expertise, where I just know how to plan, organize chaos based on learning principles. And then that is the cool stuff that you never know what's going to come out of that. I have an idea of what's going to happen, but if Chris, parks too far away or takes too long to get in and he let his car run empty, so he spends 3 minutes getting gas, the missus might already be sitting down, or she might be ordering coffee when she happens. Now, what if something else happens and it clicks off? What do you do? What should you do? So now, with UTM over a 3-acre property, we can have little explosions going all over the place. So it's like someone's getting robbed over there, but you don't know it. So out of those 52 people, we normally have 3 or 4 really cool things happening around the property, but you can't hear it or see it because it's UTM. So you're not going to hear the rounds. So we can really get the most juice for the squeeze. And that's just what I geek out about. I love setting up stuff like that. And then, Chris, that is terror-specific drills, organic learning based on safety concepts. And then, Randy, it's like if you carry a firearm every day, but your better half doesn't, you wait until they're in a scenario where they're separated from you, and then something happens and they don't have it, right? It's like it's the best lightning coming down and striking someone going, oh my gosh, right? And then it's like, oh my gosh, I want to help that person. Do you have a tourniquet? No, you don't carry a tourniquet every day, right? You got one, you got two, you got one for you, one for, and it's like that kind of stuff is what allows you to really understand the why, and it makes you better at everything afterwards, because I was training the wrong way because I'm good at this, but I didn't realize I was bad at that because it happened organically in a large group scenario. So anyway, that's what we do once a year, and that's my large group, terror, what sets terror apart, and terror specific drills.
Thanks, Phil. That was awesome. And speaking of not knowing what's going to happen, I'm looking for the video of our young friend Luke, and none of us could have predicted. None of us could have predicted what happened to Luke that one fateful day at WOFT. But I'm looking at segment 5, pardon me, building defense through training and inoculation, and we've really hit on all of this stuff. So I'm just going to open up the conversation. I've got, a few questions. You both can jump in on them. But I'd like to know, first and foremost, what steps can beginners take towards stress inoculation? So, Randy, you can speak to it. Philip, Ken, it's your choice.
Well, I go back to, again, as a civilian, I guess it may be a tactical range, but it could be any range, really, even a static, straight in front of you. I would start off, whether it's putting your hands in the ice water, you know what I mean, or doing some push-ups and sit-ups, or kind of smoking yourself a little bit and then shooting, that would be like one of the first steps. Now, I'll back up. That's if you already know how to shoot, right? If you already know how to handle a gun, that would be the first steps. If not, you need to have somebody show you how to properly use a firearm, both how to aim, breathe, squeeze, and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot to it. I mean, not really a lot to it, but you got to practice to be proficient at it. Most people are not just a natural gun shooter. That's a fact. So I would start with, little bitty drills and work myself up to a full smoking, and then going in there and shooting. At least then you would get a idea of what it's going to feel like on a smaller scale. Because just like, what people do, like we watch boxers train, they still have those, still have a little minute or whatever it is between rounds. But the fact is, it's no different than when, and now it's been a long time, thankfully. But when another man, you get in a fist fight with another man, you've had to have trained very hard for that. People think that they work out in the gym and they got in pretty good shape, that's going to do it. But you don't understand when that adrenaline kicks off, and then everything is at 100%. Where when you trained, you did a little bit of lifting here, then you rested, or however you did it. No one trains to the level of when you actually are in a fight, and you have to give 100%, 100% of the time, which means you get tireder and smoked a whole lot quicker. So that's all. What my point is on the stress inoculation training, you just want to get to the part where you're breathing heavy. You might be a little tired and you're sweating. You can't be comfortable. Can't be like you just stepped off and there's no anything that's making it hard. Because again, if your hands aren't shaking a little bit, if you're not breathing heavy, it's not stress inoculation training. And there's some stuff you can do after that, but that's after you get this part down. So I will. The other thing I'll tap on is something that Philip said earlier, which I thought was very well, because people think that you can self-defense at anything. It doesn't matter if you're in a crowd, in a parking lot, or if I'm in my own home right here in Texas and someone breaks into my home. Yes, if you shoot them in your home when they're breaking in, you have some protections there. But I will tell you, even here in the state of Texas, if that person turns to run and you shoot them in the back, you're going to prison. It's just a fact. So never shoot anybody in the back, because for one, you will be charged criminally, no matter if you had a good case for self-defense or not. That throws it out the window. And then you also have to realize, even if you are found not guilty, most likely that person's family is going to come and sue you civilly afterwards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Philip, same question for you. What first steps can beginners take to work towards stress inoculation?
So the first thing is, again, I like to really focus on what's more likely to happen, which is nothing. And I want to empower and inspire people to want to learn more, because you don't want to go to the gym and smoke yourself, and then you can't walk 2 days later and you're not back in the gym because you're just so in pain. And so we first focus on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, you're at a gas station and someone is looking at you 20 yards away. And now distance breaks down 2, 3, 4. And now, Randy, they're close enough they can touch you. That would be 4, right? So 1 to 4, and we hard focus on 1. If we hard focus on 1, it might not go to 2. If we hard focus on 2, it might not go to 3. And so we go hands-on at 4. Now we're in a fight. Can we strike and get distance, right? Tony Blauer spear, start a flinch. If we have to fall, how do we fall without getting whiplash? We're on the ground. I don't want to stay on the ground in jiu-jitsu and be in the sea and swim on what I want to get up without getting kicked in the head like a soccer ball. So it's like to get distance, right? And then you have immediate imminent threat. How much juice you got in the tank? How long can you fight? How physically fit are you? So it's just really having that question. Beginners is understanding the why. UTM is a fantastic way, because again, we get a lot of first timers at WOFT, especially people that have a lot of training. They bring their spouses, they bring their kids. The kids are just starting to drive, or kids are going to be turning 21 soon and they want to carry a firearm. And so we want to give them some experience. And so a lot of times females, other partners, it's hard. It's not natural to have an explosion at the end of your hand. So UTM is a great way to learn how to load and unload safely. If they flag themselves or muzzle themselves with a UTM, we're not completely freaking out, right? But at least we're like, hey, you do that on the range and you're done for the day, right? And so it's like we learn the 4 safety rules at UTM with UTM, which is a lot less it's a great, easy, more relaxed atmosphere. So that's the bigger thing for me, is that there's so many places that are so good around the country that where I would say we really hard focus is, again, what's more likely to happen is nothing. and starting people on their journey. So they want to come back the second day. They want to come back the third day, because that's, you know, you guys, any type of empty hand stuff, they'll tell you about jujitsu, where it's like, you just got to come back. You just got to don't quit. So we want to make that as fun and empowering as possible, so that people want to stay in it for the long term, because we get a lot of people that come to us that have training scars. They went somewhere and it's like, well, Chris, if you've never been choked, you got to feel what it feels like. So come here, you know, and you're going, whoa, you know, like, I like that stuff, but my wife if the bathrooms aren't clean, she's not coming back.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I want. I'm learning my skills to protect her. So, but I want safety for her when I'm not with her. So how do I keep her engaged? Is the process that, while I hard focus on that, if Randy came out and he wanted to do some crazy high-speed, low drag stuff, we can do that too. But it's like we hard focus on that first. So we are full service, and we spare no expense, Jurassic Park style, which is hard to convey to certain people, because they go, geez, why are you $1,750 for a day? And you're going, well, it's because we can get that down. If you come out for 2 days, we can get down to $1,500. If you want to come out for 3 days, we can get down to $1,250. And now when we add ammo and gear and insurance and food and a jersey, and now we add photography and video, it's like it starts to get down to where it's still a little more expensive than if you go to these other places, but not so much. It gets to be more palatable, right? And then you bring out family. So Chris, we did something new this year that for families, the first family member is 10% off. The second family member is 20% off. The third family member is 30% off. And then from that, it's 30% across the board for everyone else that you bring. So help manage that. But to have good people and have insurance, that's just what we need. And it's like, again, no one else is doing it and nothing else is like it.
Yeah, let me speak to this just for a second. So I come from a business development background, and I can tell you, when Philip says spare no expense, he's not kidding. This is not high margin stuff. He's not making money from you so that he can retire. And I can give you some tangible examples. He took his top firearms training guy, Buck, and said, Buck, I want you to go spend the afternoon with Chris and Cindy, plus Mike as well, another one of his guys. So it was two of them and two of us. We went through over 1,000 rounds each. So Cindy and I went through 2,000 plus rounds working with Buck and Mike. That's the type of experience that you can expect. And, you know, if it sounds like an infomercial, you know, I apologize, but it really is second to none. So Philip Toppino, right? Ends in a vowel, Italian. The food is off the friggin' chain. My heritage, you know, is Greek, and our world revolves around food. So I'm big on that, but it's high quality food. Anyway, at the end of the day, just to reel things in and get back on target here. It's funny where you went with the family stuff. So I was going to touch on that, but I won't. So Randy, how often do people need to do scenario training like you guys when you were Green Beret to stay, you know, proficient? It's like riding a bicycle. It never completely goes away, but also you get their, what's the word I'm looking for? The skills downgrade when you don't use them, right?
They're perishable skills. And in special in special operations, it's nonstop.
No shit.
You're always doing some type of training nonstop. And that is why. That's exactly why. And you know, because repetition in this type of thing helps build better skills, obviously. So as much as possible. So for all of our folks, you know, I would say, you know, at least once a month, you should be doing some of this, right? And once a quarter, you should probably go seek some kind of real training. I think just if you really want to be even somewhat proficient as a civilian, you know, because you can't just go once or twice a year and think, well, I'm good, because it doesn't work that way. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
Yeah, for sure. Philip, because you do this day in, day out, how often do people need to practice?
You know, we have people that can afford it. They come to every class. And right now we're having 2 classes a month, sometimes 1. It just depends on, you know, holidays, and people think there's 52 weeks a year. They're lying. right? If you think you're going to come out on Valentine's Day, you're in trouble, you know. But we have classes on the free weekends that don't have something crazy around it, and we tell people to at least twice a year, if not once a year, and that's just to maintain what you have. And it's like, that's just, you come to us to vet what you are going to do, then you get your homework, right? So where were you come, and now you go home to work on the stuff because you don't want to afford that with us. We can, and we have people that do. We have people that come in and say, I want to rent out the whole facility, right? So that ties us back into our 501c3. We have a 501c3 that that people help us. They donate to that, and we help for single moms, you know, awesome. And we help first responders families that can't afford a higher level of stuff. And then locally, we offer free training to our law enforcement, our local PDs. And you guys would be shocked. Well, maybe you wouldn't. How many actually take us up on it? Where it's like it's less than 5%. Wow! Come out and take advantage of that, and it amazes me. But that's the big thing where it's like we're doing God's work, and we want to help everybody. And that's the thing where, you know, we want to reach out to the other half of the country, because you mentioned a firearm. And it's no one on this show, but you mention a firearm and half the country turns off. Yeah. But everybody wants safety. And so what I found is that, you know, Randy, when you give someone an education, they can make educated decisions.
That's right.
And so I've had a lot of people come to me because of our flashlight training. They don't want any firearms training. That's not why they're here, blah, 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 not lethal, blah, 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 blah. But they had someone approach them and they felt uncomfortable. And so they get referred to us. Well, when they come out to us and they see, you know, I was intimidated, but I'd like to try that. It's like they don't know where to start, but once they start, that's the empowerment and inspiring part, where now they want to potentially take a CCW class. And yeah, they'll try that 22 suppress because it's not too loud. The percussion bothers them, right? The noise. So UTM and things like that. So there are 25 ways to skin a cat, and we like to talk to people in 5 different languages and 4 different ways.
So let's set the stage here, Philip. And you said you can't predict what's going to happen. So Philip is fond of saying when you run drills like scenario training, it's an ink blot. It's something that you're never going to see again. Every single time is completely different. So let me set the stage for this. And Philip, as I play it, just tell me when to pause. So
I can't believe you found it.
Well, I couldn't find the good copy. This is a copy that Dave took with his phone. So let me set the stage. So John Wheaton and Dave Kemp, our good friends from Righteous Savages, made the trip from Southern Illinois to Florida to spend a day at WOFT. And they brought with them this young lad. His name was Luke, and he had just graduated from high school 2 weeks prior to this particular day. So Philip set up, he has different buildings with different setups. So that's obviously a mock-up gas pump, but there was only Philip and Kat. So normally he has 4 or 5 or 6 people of his, staff members that are in these scenarios, but it was just the 2 of them. And Mike Sterling had gone just prior to this. And as Philip said at the time, kudos, like one of the best he's ever seen. Mike completely shut everything down. So Luke, being, he's not exactly a worldly young man. He had just graduated from high school, that had a complete and total breakdown. And so much so that Philip, I don't know if I've even told you this. We've talked since then, but I don't know if I've told you. They had to be at the airport at 4 a.m. So at 1 a.m., they're sitting at my dining room table saying, well, screw it. We should probably, just pack our stuff and head for Orlando. And Luke is sitting there shaking his head. And somebody said, what's going on, buddy? And he says, well, I texted my girlfriend the video, and she said, it's good to know that you can't protect me. So pretty brutal.
This is an organic learning experience, right? And Randy, it's one of those things where this was just something that we did impromptu. And Chris was out with some good people, and they're like, hey, could you mind running a few things? And when you do everything right, it can be very boring. right? Because you're not guaranteed anything. You earn the right for an experience to escalate. And when you have the right equipment and the right gear, you know, that's the difference between a haunted house and a real experience, because we can come up and touch you. We can come up and grab you. And it's on me.
Yeah, grab you indeed. So this video was just shot with a phone. There is really good footage on this that was professionally shot. I couldn't find that video, so this one will have to suffice. Philip, if you want me to stop, just say stop.
Sure. Getting gas, pre-fight indicators. Anything can happen at any time. Distraction. Make sure she's not an immediate threat. Good job using the flashlight. Looking around, but you're
Taken, I'm sorry. Taken. Back it up. No.
If you guys can't, I gotta back this up. So Kat is like flirting with Luke, and if you can't hear it, he says, "Back up, I'm taken."
How's it going?
Predators work in packs, right?
And I'm not, but I really like your hair. And I
Taken, I'm sorry. Taken. Back it up.
I really like your. Sorry, back it up. I'm taken.
No. As much fun as that sounds, back up. You too.
What do you mean it sounds fun?
Back up.
I think I was
back up.
Honestly, I was trying to flirt.
Stop, Chris. So right now, what's happening is these are pre-fight indicators, right, Randy? We are closing in on him. We are not obeying his commands. This is where he needs to get much more aggressive and much more louder with his voice. Command presence let us know that he is a hard target. And the fact that we're getting closer and closer and closer, he needs to pick the smaller one of us and just go. Because at this moment, he doesn't have anything. But see, he is, what is it, cognitive dissonance? Like he's sitting here and it's like, he's in a hot boiling water. He doesn't realize he's getting ready to get boiled. So this is one of those pre-fight indicators that you can see it, watching it, what's happening, but he's going to find out real quick. And then you get to see how someone's going to react. And with the gear, Randy, what I do is if someone hits me and they're really going to hit me, and you can imagine that flashlight can be a good force multiplier. Yep. I've got groin protection. I've got the cryo pants. I've got, Tony Blauer stuff on me. I've got neck protection as well. So, I mean, I can take a beating. I still feel it, but I can take a beating. So for him, he's a big boy. And I didn't know what he was going to give me. So I just kept going at it. And afterwards, their guys are like eyeballs, like they're golf balls. They're so big after this. So, but yeah, right now, for everyone out there, he should be getting loud and mad because we are closing in on him. And he's using the flashlight at least, but he is not telling us to stop. He is not telling us to back up. And so, he is an easy target. So we're gonna see what he's got.
Well, he's doing what most people that do right now. He's still trying to tell himself in his head, this isn't really happening.
Yes.
So for the record, before I hit play on this, Cat might be 110, 115 pounds soaking wet, just so you guys know. So, because that's germane to what's fixing to happen here.
With you, but you're being
back up.
Ow, that hurt.
Oh, I'm dead right there. I'm dead.
Cat takes him to the ground, and that nervous laughter. Just to touch on that, Philip, like what was going on here. I mean, he had a complete breakdown.
Yes, he is that nervous laugh where he's like, I'm dead, pause. And as Randy knows, there is no pause in real life. There is no stop, pause, do over.
Yeah, there's no timeout.
There's no timeout. And so in Kat, Kat's former military MP. So, she does have some good leverage based. So she is a tiny thing though, but she's a little spider monkey, which is. So, and now you might hear that ticking. That's a shock knife.
Yeah, I heard something.
We're attacking him lethally. And that nervous laughter, again, this is a moment for him that is such an experience that, he'll be thinking about this. He's probably still thinking about this. And it's like,
Oh, I
That is
guarantee
my
you.
gift. That is my gift to him. So Chris is going to see what continues to happen because, again, we're just see what you got, right? So
I'm good.
If you didn't hear him there, he goes, "I'm cooked," as Philip drags him around the field on his ass.
Yeah. Is everyone okay over here? No, come here. Come on.
Yeah, in real life, this is where he starts losing energy because he's bleeding out.
correct. But I
Yeah.
mean, I dragged him. So I dragged him one leg all the way around the car. And now he's going to fight two of us instead of just running away. Front push
Yeah.
kick, pick the
Yeah.
smallest one, go through it, get away. So there's a lot of learning points. But again, this was the tires came off on turn 2, and it was just a complete disaster. But it was a really cool organic learning moment for him.
Oh yeah, guaranteed it was.
Yeah, it was good. It was something to see, that's for sure. I'm sorry, I can't help but laugh about it. So anyway, moving on, we'll wrap this thing up now. Suffice it to say that, nobody should assume that you'll have warning, and that you should have a high level of situational awareness at all times. We preach it over and over again, Philip. Don't go out in public and bury your face in your weapon of mass distraction. And actually, maybe speak to that for a second, Philip, on how the animal kingdom works. And they specifically look for other animals that aren't paying attention, and that's who gets attacked, like the tigers at the watering hole with the crocodiles and that sort of stuff.
Sure. I would say the most dangerous thing in our society right now is a gas station or a grocery store, because look at the animal kingdom, right, Randy? The most dangerous place is a watering hole, because predators know you have to go get water. And so when the drought happens, they get around it. They know you're coming. Well, most people, even if you don't have a Tesla, they have to go to a gas station, and so that's where you're more likely to get approached. A gas station, a grocery store. So those are where to be on high alert. And they're looking for pre-fight indicators. They're looking for all little things that, will make it so that you're not a soft target. So that is the part where don't be in stupid places with stupid people at stupid times doing stupid things. And, most bad things happen early in the morning or late at night. So it's just something that what we can learn from nature is that if you take away a predator's element of surprise, if they're on the fence of whether they're going to attack you or not, if they can take away their element of surprise, they'll wait for somebody else. And so that's the cool part of really hard focusing and deep diving into nature. And that's why I have an hour-long presentation on it. And it really helps give you a different type of communication so I can communicate with you more efficiently. Right? Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say it's such an awesome presentation that I started to record it, and Philip said, "Put your phone away." So it's well worth the time, that's for sure. It's absolutely crazy stuff.
I'm writing a book, and it's one of those things where we are going to Chris, finding the right people to partner with. We want to reverse engineer the experience now that we took 15 years perfecting, and we can put that on an AI, on a VR model, which will, with the proper context, give people the tools and the foundation that they need to practice inexpensively in the safety of their own home. Then when they get the basics down, then they can come and actually see how they apply it. Right, Randy? Because it's one thing you can talk all day long, but until something goes down, you don't know how you're going to react. So we can talk about it, but it's a whole nother animal to now put you in the arena.
Well, I thought that was a great example because Luke, unfortunately, did just about everything wrong from the very beginning. Well, he did turn on the light. He said no at the beginning, but after that, he totally did everything wrong, including, this isn't really happening. Even though this was just a practical exercise, he still went into that mode. Then when he finally, both of them were on, y'all were both on him, then he had no choice but to accept that this is really happening. And then he just tried to fight both of you off there instead of get away.
Correct.
So he did every single thing wrong. And this just goes to show you people what we're saying about training. And, again, another analogy I always use is baseball, right? Certainly if you're an infielder, you need to know where you're going to go with the ball before the ball's hit, before that pitcher throws the ball, so that you know what you're going to do. It's no different, really. You have to know what you're going to do at the moment you're approached, and that has to be thought out before it happens, as we all have been saying. So that was a great example of how things can go wrong, and then they continue to go wrong. They usually don't turn around.
Is it just me, or is it a little bit creepy seeing Philip on the background peek around the corner at you there, Randy?
Right?
Hey, what's going on? But anyway, it's that time of the night. Carnival is our premier sponsor, Philip. So at this time of the night, 3, 2, 1. The Carnival Hero of the Night. And this is one that I didn't know about until earlier today while I was researching heroes. So this is the original Epstein whistleblower, Dutch supermodel Karen Mulder. She lost her career, was put on medication and into a psych ward for speaking out. Don't forget her, because she's a hero. I didn't even know about this. And after I found this, I went and I did some reading. It's a total, what a shame. What a life ruined by Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, because as it turns out, it was either her boss or one of them that she accused that actually was paying for the mental institution that they dropped her in.
Correct. Yeah, the whole thing was manipulated. Unbelievable stuff. So the conflicted question of the night, Philip, I don't know if we did this last time you were on or not. These are 14 card decks set in post-apocalyptic scenarios where most, not all, but most of the questions have some element of morality to them, and hence the name conflictedthegame.com, right? So this is tonight's conflicted question. We read it earlier tonight. I'm going to read it again, and then, Philip, you get first stab at this one. Thad, a man who joined Morgan on his trip home, shot someone by mistake during an escape attempt. To take the victim back to his group would potentially threaten the safety of Morgan and Thad. To let the victim bleed to death because of Thad's mistake wouldn't be fair. If you were part of Thad and Morgan's group, how would you handle this situation? And what do you do with this guy that you just shot, Philip, that you shouldn't have shot, who's fixing to bleed out unless you get him back to his group? But if you do it, you put your life and Morgan's in danger.
Yeah. Randy, what's the famous thing? Well, it depends, Chris. It depends.
I've got another one too. Life isn't fair, and it never will.
Yeah, it depends. And again, I'm horrible at these things because it's like, is my family with me? Like, I asked 25 more questions. So it's one of those things where in a post-apocalyptic, if I'm by myself and my family is no longer with me, I would act a certain way. If my family's with me, then I'm going to do everything to protect myself. So he unfortunately has to go because my family comes first, and I'm not going to put myself at risk, even though I made a mistake.
Fair enough. Randy?
Well, I'm with Philip. One, again, as you realize now, Philip, on one question, there's never all the context. There's so much you could literally ask 50 questions on almost all of them to try to narrow down what would be the perfect answer. But here's reality. This is a post-apocalyptic. This isn't like what we're living in right now. There's probably not even an open hospital. Then it comes down to, okay, are we friends with that other group or not? And then it's just like Philip said, the problem is when you turn this guy back over, how's that going to turn out? And then you got to worry about your family, the rest of your group, and poor Thad who shot this guy on accident. The unfortunate truth is, in this type of situation and what we're actually talking about, it doesn't take long to bleed to death. So this guy would probably bleed to death right there.
Okay, so my answer is a little bit different than y'all's. First and foremost, I'm going to put a tourniquet on him. Second, I'm going to take a Sharpie and mark the time. Third, I'm going to get and I may just throw him a spare tourniquet just because, in case he needs it, sort of thing. Yeah, the thing with the conflicted questions, Philip, is that there's always context missing. But let me tell this quick story because you'll get a kick out of it. So the couple who own this product, unfortunately, they're divorced now, but at the time they had done well in commercial real estate. Sound familiar? and they ended up buying a 380-acre ranch in Idaho, in the middle of nowhere. It was like 30 minutes to the closest gas station, convenience store, over an hour to the closest town. So when they bought this property, they didn't have a lot of neighbors, but people would stop by and, welcome them to the area. And they used the conflicted cards as a way to vet their neighbors. So this is the deck we're working on right now, the Survivalist series, it's called. Anyway, they had this guy over for dinner one night, and he asked what they did, and they told them about conflicted, and they said, "Would you like to play?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." And one of the questions came up, and it was prepping related, and the guy's answer was, "Prepping? What? No, I don't prep anything. I'll just take whatever I want by gunpoint if the shit hits the fan." And they were like, "Oh, really? You'll never come to our house again."
Duly noted.
That's how they flushed the guy out. So, pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But with that being said, just want to show one more time Philip's website, WOFT.com, WOFT.com. He's got all the socials, of course, as well. If you can afford it, make the trip. It is well worth it. Cindy and I always look forward to going back. We've been a whole bunch of times now. I'm pretty blessed and fortunate that Philip keeps having us back. We're kind of like luggage now, right? You never get rid of luggage. Once you have luggage, you got it for life. So anyway, with that being said, I will be back Sunday evening at 7 p.m. with my personal podcast, The Sea Heaven Show, which is all funny, crazy, zany stuff, 1,000 milligram stairs and all that kind of good stuff. Then we will be back Monday evening at the normal time with the next episode in our Long War series. Tuesday night, I have a candidate for Texas House. Jeepers, I always mix her name up, and I don't want to mispronounce it, but her first name's Carmen, put it that way. She's from Venezuela. Tuesday night, she's coming to talk to us about how afraid she is that communism is taking hold here in America and how she doesn't want to see that. Obviously, very, very nice, very intelligent lady. Wednesday, another long series. Thursday night next week, Jake Lang, Mike Glover, and the new religious wars that are ongoing. And Jake, of course, got arrested in Minneapolis yesterday, and we'll see how that goes because he kicked over a nice sign and hurt somebody's feelings. They said it was a $6,000 felony that they gave him. He's definitely a polarizing figure, but he's got a lot of passion. Philip, appreciate your time as usual and sharing information. Randy, same thing as always. Couldn't do the show without you. And that's it. So please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless our law enforcement. God bless our troops.
God bless America.
God bless America. Enjoy the closing video. It is a brand
They say the flag's just cloth and thread, but it draped my daddy's coffin bed. He bled for it, now they curse his name while burning down what he discourse. Call me crazy.